fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going in the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to him!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Deep in Australia. We are in Sydney. We are in Narellan, just a small suburb by standards about 10 years ago. Now, a very large suburb, full 2.6 kilometres, a little bit larger. A track which does not exist any further when it comes to racing in the real world, but in virtual realities, we still find ourselves racing arguably one of the finest tracks that Australia has to offer. We are at Oran Park Raceway and the start of the season kicks off and effectively the end of the opening happens here. This is round 3 of the championship and it is an Australian Park Super Sprint here on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by SimSpeed TV's entertainment. And well, good morning for those in the United Kingdom and the European continent. Good very morning for those in the United States of America, to the point of good evening. And of course, good evening to everyone watching in Australia, New Zealand and everywhere else around the world. I'm Jake Sperry, joined by Reese Gardner, as we have Super Split 2 action to open up proceedings here this evening. And Reese, well, what can we say? It's another incredibly tight field. Top 40 split by just over half a second. Top 80 split by 1.2. And this field has an international flair to it as we head to maybe one of the hearts of sim racing in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. Oran Park, 3rd round of the season, first Australian round of the season. I've been looking forward to this one. And, you know, Oran Park, it can get flack from some drivers for being a very tight, twisty track where it's difficult to race, but this is the premier series in the Australian sim racing community, and there is always action and drama to be had here. Certainly looking forward to it.
Oh, you have to look forward to it. We are just 12 minutes and under away from racing action getting going here at the Oran Park Raceway. So let's just get up on your screen right now. Track conditions at the moment. The winds are blustering in from the southwest at 14 kilometers an hour. It's clear skies at 24 degrees, but the track seemingly has not really picked up in the early morning here in New South Wales, here in Sydney, because you have to look at it. It's 29 degrees only here on the track in sim time, just trying to hit 8 o'clock in the morning. So this track's going to get hotter and hotter and hotter as this race goes on. Adaptability, a key factor to drivers who are looking for one thing and one thing only, and that is qualification up into Split 1, and that will give them 2 more races to fight incredibly hard for tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. As a reminder for people who are not so familiar with this series, the winner of the Split 2 race advances into Split 1 for the rest of the night's racing, and this is a super sprint presented by West End Mazda, of course. So we've got 2 races tonight in the main game. We've got a 35-lapper coming up very soon or Split 1, and in that in-sim morning air, these drivers are still getting to grips with the track. Brian Borg is currently topping the timesheets, and this track, Sperry, It's one of those circuits that's very typical of the Australian racetrack. It's honestly way too small for these overpowered, undertired cars, but that's just the way we like it.
It is. It's a challenge in and of itself, and I would say it is the Monaco of the calendar that we see at the moment, if maybe other tracks later on in the season won't be already. So I think a lot of drivers are going to try and work hard here today to try and get qualifying an absolute must. But these drivers from 41 to 80, they understand there's nothing they can do about qualifying anymore. All their qualifying was sorted out over 3 days worth of work over the Thursday, the Friday and the Saturday here to this Sunday evening drive. And I think these drivers need to understand something here, Reese. Where they've drawn is on their ability to one-lap pace over the course of 3 days. Now is where you show your racecraft, and I tell you what, those who are really strong and are really looking forward to this, they've done more than just practice for that one-lap qualification. They need to be ready for all conditions on a race set.
They absolutely do, and Oran Park itself is a circuit where it's difficult to pass. The key points on this circuit tonight are going to be the first and last sections. You can put a move on someone into turn 2 if you're courageous enough. This is the last turn that we see. Blake Neck for Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing going through now and onto the start-finish straight here at Oran Park, and he's coming up to this very particular point on the circuit, just starting braking before the apex, tracking your way through that kink of a first turn and then bringing it back in to make sure you get a good exit onto this following straight and then up to turn 3. That's another passing opportunity, but from this point forward on the circuit, Sperry, it is winding, it goes side to side, up and down, and side by side racing will only slow you down, so very difficult to pass around here.
It is, and for those who have seen the likes of Oran Park quite a bit on your screens over the last couple of weeks, well, there has been some very good reasoning for that, and the most important has been the AOSC Championship that we've been keeping an eye out on over the course of Friday mornings for me, Friday evenings for the Australian Times, but really, Reese, what we saw was maybe the first signs of, okay, try and get back on the track for Jared Filsell. We saw some great battling upwards of almost 2/3 of a lap side by side. You can do it, and there's also worth saying, one mandatory pit stop required here in this split 2 race, and you've got arguably the tightest pit road in all of sim racing. It is one track firmly, any more than that, and there's vehicles going to be absolutely speared.
Absolutely. The pit entry here at Oran Park can really catch drivers out. I've been going through the field in the session so far and just observing how the drivers tackle it. If you're behind someone coming out of the final corner, you need to be prepared to veer to the left because you actually start braking for the pit lane entry while you're still on the racing line. So it's obviously Oran Park was never the most up-to-date circuit in terms of safety standards, but here in sim racing, it's just another challenge for the drivers to overcome, and the pit exit is equally as important as well.
Yes, there is so much importance that comes along from it, and what we are starting to see here is maybe a few more drivers trying to push themselves up to the limit and showcase exactly what they are all about. The 513, for example, showing an air of the Continental at the moment. This is Joao Caroni. Normally finds himself with Race Clutch Motorsports, but for the time being, the Frenchman is finding himself in his first V8SCOPS event. So, trial by fire, welcome to V8SCOPS.
Yes, indeed. He's in the 105s, which is nothing to sneeze at around here. About 8/10 behind our current timesheet topper, Brian Borg. So that's around a track like Oran Park. It's not terrible, and it's definitely something that he can look at and work on to improve his pace. He currently sits just outside the top 30. For someone in their first V8 SCOPS race, that's certainly something to be impressed with.
Certainly is, as well as the 74 machine of Adam Blocker, the American, is going to try and give himself the best work possible to get himself through Club Carolina. he will be racing out from, and he'll be looking to try and make that big push. And I haven't seen too many drivers from the internationals give themselves an opportunity to go through, but Adam Blocker is maybe used to something with a bit more downforce on it, Reese. Very, very strong. He is with the Lionheart IndyCar series, and really in the last couple of seasons has proved that he can be very good when it comes to the likes of Skip Barber, likes of open wheel formulas. A closed wheel challenge like this, I haven't seen too many drivers challenge it since all the way back in about 2010, 2011, when the likes of Rens Broekman was trying to race.
Yeah, well, I reckon it's almost paralleling real life. As you said, Adam Blocker, usually active in IndyCar and making the switch to V8 supercars for this weekend. It's something that we've seen quite a bit in real life. In the real life Supercars Championship, we've had the likes of Will Power and Sebastian Bourdais, etc., jumping into these V8 touring cars. So Adam Blocker following in their footsteps.
Oh, absolutely, and we'll see what he will be able to do in this one. He's got in right at the death, right towards the back of the field, so we'll see where his last 2X challenge is going to leave him. But these drivers today know that margins are few and far between, and from putting my own practice in over the week, Reese, this is a track where you really have to be reliant on one big factor more than anything else, and that is, well, actually, sorry, I'm going to lie, two things. One is stability, surely, and the other one, acceleration.
Yeah, exactly, because this circuit, the front straight that Brian Borg's going down now is really the only place on the circuit where you can get a rest. Everywhere else, you are turning the wheel. You are not setting that thing completely straight. You're not having a rest where you're just going up through the gears and plotting your next braking point. You have to be on it all the way from this exact point of the circuit through to the last turn, because it's just corner after corner after corner, and they go up and down hills as well, particularly up this section over the bridge. Brian Borg struggling with the throttle there, making sure that he gets the right amount of acceleration in second gear, and then through this section, it's all about mechanical grip going through the dips and through the S-bends. Will Dodd for Fusion Sim Racing there in front of Brian Borg as well, and this section of the circuit, acceleration is particularly important as Dodd jumps over and lets Borg by. And then you're setting up for the last turn. You can push quite hard due to the uphill braking, but once you get out onto the start-finish straight, you see Brian Borg there. A little bit of a wiggle. That's going to happen to quite a few drivers over the course of tonight.
Oh, you bet it is. And when you're trying to see so many drivers have that push and really look to have that opportunity to attack, they know that they can't afford to have too many difficulties. We have seen names maybe coming back into this that haven't really had the chance to race so far this season. I know Blake Purdy's back in behind the vehicle after missing the last round at Interlagos, where he very brilliantly, I think it had to be said, at Montreal got himself into the top split. But it's not just new drivers that's finding themselves in. We've got new paint designs coming in as well. Just take a look actually at the hyperdrive car in the number 10 of Brett Hender, because there is a brand new logo on the front of that vehicle, and it looks completely 80s with a brand new design.
Yeah, absolutely does. That is an awesome looking livery that Brett Hender has on his Falcon there. It actually reminds me of some of the mid-2000s liveries we get in real life touring car championships. Definitely has that aesthetic. I'm a fan.
Well, I'm certainly a fan of that as well, and I know that a lot of work's gone in with the likes of Scotty Briscoe getting in on the painting job for that one, so that's a big scalp that they've been able to get. But we are a minute and a half away from Super Split 2 action. The winner gets to go to the main event, but there have been surprises once again. Brian Borg again does not find himself in Split 1. Likes of Michael Taliancic really stands out as someone who maybe could do a little bit more. But what I think is the most surprising is the poor turn of form from Riley Blythe in pre-qualification. He's third at the moment in practice, but he's starting all the way down the field in this race.
Yes, indeed. Riley Blythe, we've seen the Evolution Racing Team driver have quite a few highs, quite a few lows over the last couple of seasons, and this is not where we would expect him to be. It's going to be priority number one for Mr. Blythe as we take a look at Taliancic and co out on track in the dying seconds. Blythe really needs to get on it and make his way up the field if he wants any chance of making something out of tonight.
Well, he needs to make something out of it, and he's got to prove that overtaking can happen at Oran Park and happen very, very well. And let's not forget, we have seen all sorts happen at Oran Park over the years, and let's just cast back last year to the spectacular failure as Luke Page hits the retaining wall on pit entry. That's not the way that he wanted to do it. I was going to talk about Ryan O'Sullivan's massive moment that he had last year into his own barrier, we're going to christen, which is just before the final corner on the right-hand side. But on that dramatic note, practice is all but over, and the official grid that we've got going on, as Reese, you just caught an eye on exactly what has happened, is going to be in just a couple of seconds' time as follows. And so on pole position will be Jason Hyde for this one, with Michael Taliancic alongside. It's Christian Smart and Thomas Hinds. Nice to see him back on the second row. Mitchell McLeod for Torking starts fifth, with Brian Borg in sixth position. Stephen Varga will start seventh for Redback, with Ian Bird in eighth. Mark Newton starts ninth, and the geodesic car of Blake Neck rounds out the 10.
Ryan Jones starting in position 11, with Dion Peters joining him on row 6. 13th and 14th, Bruce Kiley and the Frenchman Jawad Caroni. Scotty McQueen and Luke Page on the next row. Brendan O'Brien, manager of Evolution Racing Team, joins Tyler Blackburn on row 9. And the top 20 rounded out by Scott Larnack for TTL Esports and Pursuit Sim Racing's Blake Purdy.
And we'll just get the rest of those drivers up on the grid for you, because these drivers know that they've got a tough 35 laps available to them at the moment. So how's your nerve? How's your bottle? One makes it through to get to the very, very top of the mountain as green flag drops and we get ourselves going. What a great start from Jason Hyde at the front. It's a bog down for Christian Smart, and instantly Hinds is down to the inside and he's going to snipe a position away.
Jones.
Maybe at this, and yes, look at Jones. What a start's had. Already contact, one sideways, two sideways, and straight across. It's going to take the leaders out. Bang! Second place gets a touch. They're in trouble behind as well. Taliancic will not be happy. He's dropped a whole heap of positions.
There's plenty of carnage down there at turn 2. Blake Neck with issues as well. Oh no, another wreck at turn 3. That's a Redback car sideways. Goodness me. Yeah, maybe. Safety car out. Safety car out.
No surprises. A disastrous start for many in this one, and that was a lot of nerves, and we're going to have to take a lot of replay to piece that one together, because there was about 7 or 8 different incidents to get this one involved, and it does show that this track is not run very often in iRacing, mainly because it is not a track that exists anymore, and a lot of series in terms of official don't run this track very often. You do need a little bit more time to get adapted to it, and maybe that's what we're seeing here. Drivers trying to get too eager, cold tyres, a turn and brake to start, and oh indeed, as we get a replay.
Yes, indeed, presented by Modem Simulation. It looks like there was just a bunch of stuff happening at the same time down at turns 1 and 2, and oh my goodness, that happened before they even got to the braking zone. And what on earth happened to the 082? My goodness, there's just so much happening throughout the field. It's difficult to pick who started what.
Well, let's focus then on that 787 car to begin with then. Let's just wind the tape back a little bit here on Stephen Varga. This is what happened at turn number 1. So, bang! There's the contact comes in on Taliancic. They were already making contact into that small kink of turn number 1. Now, this is what the issue is. A little squeeze on the outside. And, oh, there's one car going incredibly deep in. And that is Bruce Kiley just not finding any brakes at all for Synergy Sim Racing. He gets away with that one a little bit scot-free if it wasn't for the penalty. And there's that 099 car just seeing Taliancic pushed wide. And I think he tried to hit the brakes to avoid it. And there he gets a bird's eye view of it. It's just Kiley completely missing the brakes. And he gets another tap for his troubles.
Goodness me, that was, there's bit amateur from quite a few people there. I mean, I know it is split too, but that's no excuse. The drivers do still need to take care on the opening lap here, as evidenced by the presence of the Porsche 911 GT3 safety car. Simon Mazzomo at the wheel of that machine. So Jason Hyde and the like, they get a bit of a chance to rest, but Talyancic, Kylie, and many others, they are licking their wounds at the moment. They've got to try and reset. Talyancic actually in the pits, he might be out.
I think he may be out, and he'll be ruining it as he's out. Justin Wallace is also down on the lane. So this is now how the field stacks up under safety car. Jason Hyde currently has the lead with Mitchell McLeod in second position for the Torque Inc. team. It is then Thomas Hinds who finds himself in third. Brian Borg is up to fourth with Ryan S. Jones in fifth. Christian Smart has dropped 3 positions down to 6th place after his involvement in the opening lap incident with Stephen Varga in 7th and Bruce Kiley in 8th. It's Tyler Blackburn 9th and Scotty McQueen is into 10th. But look at some of the big gainers in this field. Jamie McKnight has gone up 14 positions in the opening lap. Riley Blythe is up 17 positions in the opening lap. Dale Niche is up 16. You're seeing so many big gainers in the opening stages. So many drivers have been caught out, and it's a massive shake-up in all of this one. But the lights will come off for the pace car, and we'll be going green this lap.
Yeah, we certainly will. We're focusing on the JMSR of Dale Niche briefly there. And yes, the lights indeed are out on the safety car. And Jason Hyde's going to be the one controlling the field here. That's the view backwards from his rear wing, looking at Mitch McLeod of Torque Inc. Of course, Mitch said beforehand that his goal was to win this event in Split 2, get himself into Split 1. So it's going to be a big fight up the front as they come through the dogleg. These second and third last turns at Oran Park. Fantastic sequence of turns, uphill chicane.
Well, now the final corner comes for Jason Hyde, taking an incredibly wide line as he looks to get on the binders quickly. You can't overtake before the start-finish line. He releases it on exit and gets a fantastic jump on Mitchell McLeod as they make that charge towards turn number 1. Maybe an easier start for these drivers as they'll make that push forward and look to get themselves through. No looks then into the opening section. Anyone still cold on brakes? No, they're not as they go through into the opening corner. Still a little bit single file as they go through, just taking it nice and easy as they have to. The run to turn number 3, 6-car breakaway as Varga tries to get there with Christian Smart and is just not quite close enough. As now looking behind, there's the damage of Bruce Kiley's machine. He's got Tyler Blackburn just behind trying to get through. Scotty McQueen's on the back of it. McKnight's under pressure now, and he's got the other Knight as currently 2 Knights at the round table start to push through the field.
Yes, indeed, and that was a much cleaner start than the previous one. Taking a look at Jacob Knight as he chases down Jamie McKnight through this section. Up the front, Jason Hyde and Mitch McLeod, they're at a bit of a stalemate here, but it looks like they're starting to break away from Thomas Hinds. Ryan Jones briefly running off the circuit on the run up to the last turn. That's going to bring him into the clutches of Smart. Little bit of contact there. This is going to get interesting.
It is, and they are incredibly close together. Now, does Ryan Jones have enough to run away in towards turn number 1? He does, so very good on the brakes as he now tries to bring it in. Look at Varga in the background, just close all the way back up. Got side by side as Blake Purdy comes under pressure. There's Riley Blythe just picking up a position on the young 14-year-old who's recently just made a team switch, and that there for Riley Blythe is another vital position on his charge up through the field. He's now in 13th, up an astonishing 18 over the course of 5 laps worth here. 30 laps to go here at Oran Park, but your front 4 are in a clear breakaway at the moment. Borg, Hinds, McLeod and Hyde are probably going to have to rely on strategy here because Smart is all over the rear of Ryan Jones in the battle for 5th, and Jones just holding his nerve at the moment. Now watch for this run out the final corner. This banked section is going to be crucial, and look at a slide from Ryan Jones. He's not comfortable at the dogleg.
Doesn't seem that way at all. That entire section of the circuit seems to not be his best, but have a look at the run that he's got out of the last corner. That's pretty significant. Christian Smart not having the best run, and he's starting to come under a bit of pressure from Stephen Varga, so these guys battling quite hard at the moment as well.
Oh, and a missed apex there is going to really compromise the run to 3, and he may have to go defensive here. Is there a little look for McKnight there? Noah's arcing this because he's trying to find a way past Scotty McQueen. Look at his down the inside. Let's go 3 wide into the corner. McQueen, and they start bumping and banging a little bit as I believe that is Jacob Knight finding a way through on Jamie McKnight, and McKnight gets a tap, and he's going to be sent for a little spin, and he holds it all together. And look at this up the hill. No one's got any traction. We're trying to put the power down, and let's go Tokyo. 2 go around. One saves it, that being Scott O'Keefe. The other's in all sorts of trouble as that one goes across. That Simon Vella not holding the brakes.
That was a complete mess. I'm sorry. That was a complete mess. Plenty of alternative options that drivers could have taken there. There's still problems for drivers back in the field going off the circuit. Who is that? Simon Vella. But that's an aerial view of what happened. Just a lot of drivers struggling for space on that one section of track. They needed a bit more time to sort themselves out, but the contact, I think, didn't really need to happen.
No, it didn't. And we saw also 2 different incidents happen at the same time as Brett Gerardis dives down onto the lane, as does Christian Smart, going for a very early pit stop strategy here. What we did see there was the likes of Caroni getting caught up in incidents here and there, as we are seeing maybe a lot of drivers trying to find maybe just a little bit of space to go out there to attack, to find themselves just a bit of space out on track, as there's a drive-through penalty coming in, and that's why the pit stop is very, very early. But what we are seeing here is drivers maybe just not giving themselves enough room around a very tight track, with maybe a few things that are not working out very well. Here's Dale Niche, though. He was involved in that incident with Caroni just 1 lap ago. He's got a damaged David Kinman just in front, and this is looking for around that top 15.
Yes, indeed. So David Kinman and Dale Niche fighting quite hard at the moment through the dog leg. Dale Niche actually gaining a tiny bit of a run through the latter part of that corner. But you can see the dichotomy of lines here. You saw Dale Niche going for that late apex in a hope to get a better exit. As we're hearing, Bruce Kiley has got a drive through along with Christian Smart, we're hearing. So them playing their parts in earlier incidents. Race control's right on that.
They are, and they are serving those penalties. They're not having anything of it at the moment, as we got ourselves maybe a few looking here, maybe trying to make this attack. Let's look at the battle for second right now, because here's Mitchell McLeod, and he is trying everything to get himself pushing a little bit further forward in this one. He's got Thomas Hinz just behind. That gap to the leader, Jason Hyde, is 1 second at the moment, so the pressure's telling for McLeod. He's in a defensive mindset rather than an offensive one, and a missed apex there heading through the final corner is going to do no favours, because Hinsey is going to try and get on a charge and get himself up to second.
This is going to be quite the interesting battle, because it's obvious that McLeod's in a bit of trouble here with Hyde skipping away a little bit, and you see right there the gap opened, but Hinsey didn't take it, because it's really difficult to throw it up the inside at that turn 2 section. You want to try and concentrate on your run up through here into turn 3, but Hinsey just biding his time at the moment. Perhaps he'll be waiting for the pit stops to try and make a move.
A lot of drivers have had to make pit stops earlier. Maybe a second caution wouldn't go too far amiss at this stage for a couple of drivers, but they know that they can't afford to push the margins a little bit further. This was no Herman Tilke design track. You can tell because there is grass and gravel all over this place. It's a harsh reality for running an inch wide as we've got a car off.
Yeah, that's Dale Niche there. He's lost a couple of positions as a result of that. In his battle with David Kinman, now he is going to have
on his own.
Yeah, he's pretty much did it on his own, but now he's back in the pack slightly, and the likes of Will Dodd behind him will look to pounce.
And someone making a mistake behind is Adam Blocker, who is not looking comfortable at the moment, the American, as he drops a position to the much quicker Scott Larnock, and maybe Mark Newton was half thinking about going down the inside. It seems that one position Adam Blocker's going is backwards, and backwards at the moment, as this race looks to continue and looks to progress. Luke Page now starts to think about Blake Neck. Look at how much more aggressive Neck is on the brakes into 1 and 2. A lot more ease there from that KRF car of Luke Page to pull himself a little bit further forward, but a big struggle on the exit there from a certain Mr. Neck is going to really bring himself under a bit of trouble. But again, we're seeing how this nature of the track is coming into play in the way that these drivers are looking to attack this track. Let's not forget Ryan Jones, because he's still under pressure. Here's Tyler Blackburn trying to get in on this. Jacob Knight's caught up to this group as well. Just 2 seconds down the road is Blake Purdy. This 6th, 7th and 8th.
Yes, indeed. And Ryan Jones plus Tyler Blackburn, both driving for Race on Oz. These guys skipping away in that sixth place battle. Have a look at the driver of Jacob Knight behind Tyler Blackburn. He is really looking to try and make a move.
And, well, it's a new team for Jacob Knight as well. It has to be said, has left Redback Racing, and Mark Samuel was not too happy about the way that things ended there. But, of course, that team that he has now managed to get himself on looks pretty nice at the moment. The big Exo Gaming on the front of the machine and trying to push up through the hill over the Yokohama Bridge. And now looking at turns 7 and 8 out on track. Then you got that big left-hander of 9, which you're trying to carry as much speed as possible through for getting on the power. And how brave do you go through 10 and 11 at the dogleg? And for the moment, it seems all three very nice and tidy at the moment. No takers onto pit road as of yet, but here's the chance coming for Jacob Knight. Tyler Blackburn has nothing on the exit. Move over to the inside, and this may just be position done into turn number 1. Who's going to be the bravest on the brakes? They're going to continue to make it too wide, and Knight's got to be good there in the second half. He keeps a nose-in contact between them and no position.
Well, that's the thing. That's what happens when you don't commit to a move. But right here, this is what Jacob Knight would have wanted. He's thrown Blackburn off with that bump, and now he might be able to get through. Yes, pushes him a bit wide on exit, but there we go. That is the move done. Jacob Knight up into 7th as things stand right now.
Yeah, fantastic work, as that's pulled them right into a very good position at the moment, and they will try and use that ability to the best of their powers, but just worry a little bit for those maybe a little bit further back, because you got the two Evolution Racing Team cars, Blythe and McKnight. They're trying to work together to pull themselves through the field. They are multi-21ing their way a little bit further forward, but take no credit away from Jason Hyde at the front of this field here on lap 13 of the event. He's got himself a 1.7 second gap now, and it is showing a 106.1 that last time by compared to the 106.2 of McLeod. Thomas Hinds on a 106.1. Ball can only manage a 106.3 as Varga has a huge Tokyo Drift moment heading through 2.
Yes, indeed. We'll get a quick modem simulation replay of that, and this is what I've been alluding to through practice. This is what happens when you get turn 1 and 2 wrong. Just catching the grass, locks the brakes, through he goes. Good recovery, but not the optimal situation. Meanwhile, this battle for second is really starting to heat up. Mitch McLeod actually ran wide in turn 5, and Hinsey is right on the back of him now, smelling blood.
Well, we'll see if he goes out there for the aggressive fact. You can make it happen at the final corner. You just got to be a brave soul to make it work. Can he get up and going and pushing hard? He can. And big lights on the brakes. Down onto the lane comes Mitchell McLeod. I don't blame him. He wants undercut strategy on tyres, and he wants to use those tyres quickly because he needs to pull 2 and a bit seconds to get back to Jason Hyde. So bold strategy call coming in from McLeod on the Torque Inc. car. And I know our director likes what happens with the Torque Inc. machines and is hoping the best for a certain driver known as Mitchell McLeod, but we will see how the push happens later on in this one. But there's the understanding there, Reese, of what happens when it gets very, very close.
Yeah, certainly does. Scott Larnack and Blake Neck right there going through turns 1 and 2. That's going to be move done for Larnack. Mitchell McLeod has completed his pit stop. He's going to come out. Oh, that was almost very awkward. Adam Gardner going full tilt into turn 1 right behind him. I think he had to back off a little.
I think he did, and as such, Mitchell McLeod will retain position right now, and that's going to be very, very key for how the next stage of this race is going to be attacked. There's a nice gap to the likes of Dion Peters, Damon Mulqueen, Jared Caroni. The trade continues. Martin Casey, Shane Evans, and Benjamin J. Smith all on this one. This is a big battle going on for 23rd down at this stage, so they've just got to be really careful and work out when is the right time to strike to attack, as we do see a little wiggle coming in more and more and more, as right now every battle seemingly has just a bit of traffic to deal with at the moment, it seems.
Yeah, certainly, and that's looking pretty close between Evans and Casey. Evans going defensive down the start-finish straight, and very wisely, Martin Casey backing out of that a little bit and tempting to throw it up the inside, but he's not going to do it this time.
Nope, he's not going to have that chance, so there is a waiting game. Dion Peters getting a great run out of 2, though. Can he look down the inside at 3? He thinks about it late. Oh, a little bit of contact, and there's the bump and run. Dion Peters picks one up on Martin Casey. Damon Mulqueen thinks better of it, looking for a move. Traffic making mistakes, as is Benjamin Smith, who will drop a position because of a mistake. And he was maybe put off, I thought, there by Simon Vella, who is desperately trying to get offline. He was parked right on the apex there, and I think there may have to be a word about that.
Yeah, well, Simon Vella has not had a good race here at all. He was involved in a couple of incidents on lap 1, and his car's suspension was absolutely destroyed. He spent some time in the pits. He's back out on track now, 8 laps down on the leaders, as we see more drivers entering the pits. Alex Greenwood, Jamie McKnight, Blake Neck, and Ian Bird all coming in. We're almost at half race distance. Oh, there's a car stop. Benjamin Smith stopped on the start-finish straight.
Wow, that could be a safety car, and that's not what was wanted there for Benjamin Smith. And just taking an eye on that on the Motum Simulation replay, gets himself then towards the final corner. He had been struggling over the course of this lap, and he gets himself to the final corner. And what happens here? He looks to try and get himself onto the lane, and bang, is not sighted. And that will do that for the privateer. And Benjamin Smith, I believe, has been able to get back going again, but looks very much worse for wear because of it, and that is not what you want to see. The difficulties of pit road rear their heads up once again as Jacob Knight comes in comes Brian Borg, in comes Jason Hyde, in comes Thomas Hinge. Your leaders are all on pit road right now, and this is the case of, has McLeod's strategy paid off? Where is he right now in all of this? Heading up through the final corner, and yes, you're right here, Reese. He is struggling here because he's got the limping Caroni. Bang! Contact between them. Caroni was trying to get down onto the lane. It didn't pay off, and look at this. They're going to come out right in the midst of traffic at the moment. McLeod retains second, but really could have done without Caroni's help.
I mean, the drive, everyone in general needs to be more careful in that area. That's the second incident we've seen in as many laps where someone's tried to go down into pit lane and they've just been rear-ended because the driver behind them wasn't paying attention. That has to stop.
It does, and that is one of the natures of this track, and one that has to be made a lot more clear for the next lots of racing by the likes of Michael Korolev and also Simon Black, who know what they need to do. So the question becomes for Jason Hyde. He's retained race lead. Now he's just got to keep there at the moment right now as more vehicles come onto the lane. Blake Purdy, Tyler Blackburn, and Stephen Varga all dive for pit road, leaving out there on track Ryan Jones to take the lead, with Scotty McQueen now in a second position. So this is all change at the moment. A lot of drivers going late. Jason Hyde struggling to get through on Dion Peters, who makes a claim for the lane. But look at this now. Mitchell McLeod is within a second right now, and his tyres are up to temperature. He can go out there and attack.
Oh, have a look at Hyde. Big oversteer moment coming through turn 1. That'll heat up the tyres, Sperry.
It will, and he's got Damon Mulqueen just in front, which will promptly need them to cool off again because he's got to get through as quickly as possible. Look at Thomas Hinds as well. He's stuck there in third. Mulqueen, no traction off the exit. He's going to lose one. Hinds dives for the inside, looking for the next second position, and he's still going to have to do it up the hill over the Yokohama Bridge. And can he get this sorted? Holding on tight there is the Torquint car, but he's going to run out of time, out of road. And great move from Thomas Hinds. He's up into net second.
Fantastic stuff from Hinsey, and I think he remembered from before when McLeod ran wide at that same turn. He thought, he's going to do it again. I'll be ready to pounce.
In comes Ryan Jones. In comes Brett Hender as they both dive onto the lane. Scott Larnock has stayed out along with one more driver, and that is Scotty McQueen, who has held the lead now for his first lap, and he will get that experience under his belt. But you keep an eye on all of this racing action that's happening about 23 seconds down the road. They are all scrapping out, and now next up on the list, Martin Casey for Thomas Hinz to try and get by. Every vehicle is just one more that is stopping himself from getting to Jason Hyde. He gets the position needed, but now it's a case of almost time trialing his way back up to Jason Hyde, because he knows that there's only one position to go into top split.
That's exactly right. All these guys vying for that same position. So Thomas Hinz, now that he doesn't have any cars in front of him, he's going to have to focus exactly on what he needs to do. Scotty McQueen into the pits. He was the leader on track, so that's going to change things around a bit. Scott Larnack is going to assume the on-track lead of this race. Of course, he still has yet to pay a visit to the pit stops.
Yes, he certainly hasn't, and it is chock-a-block in the middle of the pack as well, because you've got likes of Greenwood, Newton, Bird, Neck and Kinmond out fighting for 22nd in a 5-car train. So all the way up through the field, everyone is now having to have their own little scrap and work out who am I battling now, because it all keeps changing out on the road as Scotty McQueen gets off of his box and drops behind Ryan Jones, behind Blake Purdy, and behind Jamie McKnight as well. It continues. Scott O'Keefe may just pick up a position, and I believe we have got one vehicle slow and off the track. Bruce Kiley is stopped at turn number 3. I think he's just been given a license to go away. That was in effectively a safe enough position, the stewards thought, so we continue with green flag running.
Yes, indeed, and we're getting a modem simulation replay of what happened to him. I've just gone back and checked myself. Doesn't seem like... Oh, no, I see what happened. You all out there, just wait till you see this. Bruce Kiley coming out of turn 2. Bam, engine goes as he goes under the bridge.
Happens just like that. Trying to be aggressive on the power, get up to 3rd gear as there's trouble trying to enter pit road for Justin Wallace. He's speared against a retaining wall, and was there any help there to get him along? We'll have to take a modem simulation replay to figure that out, but Justin Wallace, I think, has really found himself in all sorts of trouble.
Yep, and it was a car spearing into the back of him. Once again, get it together, guys. This isn't good enough.
No, and well, we're going to see this. We didn't quite catch that from that angle. It happened just before that, so heading himself towards the final corners right now. Heads through the dog leg here, left and the right, the number 37 race, or 37th position, the 213 Race on Oz car. Heads himself through the final corners, looking maybe to come down onto pit road. Gives a lot of notice, and that is Niche, I think it was, in the JMSR car.
I mean,
going
come
straight
on.
to the rear.
Like, all the drivers know what this means, right? They've all come to this track. They know, they've raced at it for years, what the pit lane entrance is like. Pull to the left out of the last corner just in case if there's a car in front of you. Not hard.
Not hard at all, and maybe just a few drivers not quite getting it up together. Mitchell McLeod is seriously struggling right now, and the tyres are falling off very quickly. Here is Brian Borg searching for a potential podium right now, if it's not for the fact that Scott Larnack is yet to come down and make that big stop, which I think he stopped very early on, and made a stop on lap 3. I'm not sure he can make it to the end on this strategy, can the TTL Esports driver, but right now, this is what McLeod's got to deal with here. Brian Borg in the battle for 4th, and at the moment, Borgie is going to be pretty much as resolute as a Brian Borg can be. He's going to try and cold-heartedly take the position away.
That's it. He's looking quite aggressive, is Brian, coming into the last corner, going for the late apex, as is McLeod, but looks to me like a little bit of a mess-up on exit. That's going to give McLeod the run. And I just realized that I was watching a replay on my end. I do apologize. Now they are coming into the final corner. And have a look at that, a much tighter entry from Brian Borg. That's he's looking quite clean. He's got a cleaner car than McLeod, to be sure. Will Dodd, meanwhile, trying to go up the inside of the 787 of Ian Bird. Dale Niche is in on this as well. This is quite messy. They've got to make sure that they give each other enough room. Looks like they've just managed to sort themselves out, but Nishi...
Wow! They got really close coming off the exit of 9, and Dale Niche is not leaving any room, as JMSR cars tend to not do. They push and give drivers racing room, maybe even sometimes a little bit less from time to time, but that was really, really close as we have seen Scott Larnach just now come out of pit road. He has finally made his stop, which gives the lead back to Jason Hyde, and Larnach comes out behind Alex Greenwood, so finds himself now in 20th position out on the road. Here's Mark Newton trying to get around Blake Neck. He's got to go around the outside at turn number 3. You don't see it there often happen because he's got to go around the outside of 4 and 5 if he wants to make this one happen, and 6 as well. So now this is the issue. He's through 5. Now he's got to go around the outside of 6, and Blake Neck wisely backs out of it there, and he will have to give up that position. Great battling from Mark Newton.
I've noticed from on the part of Blake Neck, he's been struggling a little bit with car balance. It's been snapping a bit. Oh my goodness, Borg at turn 1. Oh, that was almost a move there for second. You know what? They've slowed each other up a little bit more. That's just given more of an advantage to Hinz and Hyde. Motum replay.
Well, yeah, and this is Brian Borg making the mistake, so keep an eye on this because he's going to try and go for that inside. He picks it up in the second part, just gets a slide on the brakes, locks up the rear axle, and just like that has to fight to gain control again. And Brian Borg has shown that he has been able to do that as he looks to continue to attack Mitchell McLeod, but it is Hyde versus Hinz, and that last time by it was Hinz who fractionally had the advantage. That gap 1.4 seconds at the moment, so Jason Hyde has been the more consistent over the course of this one, and we've got 11 laps to go at the moment, and oh my goodness indeed, Reese.
Yeah, well, a little bit of a bump from Will Dodd on Alex Greenwood. Greenwood, as you saw on the broadcast, he had a bit of a problem coming into turn 2, so these guys still fighting very hard. Dale Nish and Ian Bird have been side by side for what seems like the last few corners. They can't leave each other alone at the moment. This is pretty fun battling to watch, but these guys just trying to sort themselves out, and Ian Bird, a little bit of a slide. Nish may pull a move on at the last turn. He might have the run. No, still staying line astern.
Still for the moment. Well, Bird, get your records on because it's time to get a move on at the moment if you don't want to be sitting going the wrong way. Here's Larnach trying to go through on Blake Neck, who made a very early stop. Down to the inside goes the SimWorks TTL Esports driver. Position made on the brakes, and that is a very good position made as well as Larnach starts climbing his way up through the field. Some of your biggest movers and shakers, Riley Blythe, he's looking at 6th place now off of Jacob Knight. He started 31st. He is up 24 positions so far. This could be position number 25 of his day.
Yeah, it's been a really great run from Blythe since the start, taking advantage of other people's issues and staying out of trouble, of which there was a lot. So, looking back at the Exto Gaming rear wing of Jacob Knight coming into turn 1, the highest load point on the circuit, this braking zone, and Riley Blythe is looking calm and collected at the moment. We'll see if he can try and make it into the top 6.
Well, he's going to try. You've also got to look a little bit further behind because the battle for the top 10 is on between Tyler Blackburn and the young Blake Purdy, and we'll see what the 48 of Blake is going to be able to do. Tyler Blackburn is probably one of the gatekeepers to making good moves late in the event. You've got to know what you need to do if you want to make those sorts of positions up. Brian Borg has closed back up again to the likes of Mitchell McLeod. This is going to be a very tough finish for a lot of drivers who have their own little scraps that they want to sort out at the moment, and the prime place to do that is turn 1, and Borg's going to have a shot.
Yeah, he certainly is. Mitchell McLeod, a little bit of straight line speed deficit. He's got some damage on the front of that thing. Brian Borg in the slipstream. He's going to try and go for the move at turn 1. He has a look. Is he going to try it up the inside at 2? He had another look. He's trying to psych McLeod out here.
Mitchell McLeod is one of the long-standing veterans. He's been up there fighting for championships before a long, long time ago. You think you can psych out a mind like Mitchell McLeod's? I'd say show me your moves. If you think you can get past McLeod, I'm not sure that he can. But all this battling is actually allowing Stephen Varga the chance to get in. He is 1.8 seconds adrift at the moment in the 868, and he is looking at his chops at a potential podium if this one continues in the manner that it is at the moment. This is scintillating stuff as this one gets closer and closer to a conclusion.
Yes, indeed. Comparing lap times, McLeod did a 106.9 on the last lap, Brian Borg a 106.5, Stephen Varga 106.47, so he's just chipping away at these guys, and if McLeod continues to slow up Borg like he has on this lap, then Varga and possibly even, no, Brett Gerards is not fighting for position. In fact, he just came into the pits.
Well, here's Blake Purdy with a shot here. Tyler Blackburn's under all sorts of troubles now. That gap is under a car length at the moment, half a car length, if that. Now Purdy moves to the inside. No, he backed out of it. He did not have confidence to send one down to the inside. Not if Tyler Blackburn runs wide, though. He felt the pressure from the young 14-year-old. Gets a massive wiggle trying to put the power down. Position made, and that is Blake Purdy showing actually a lot of maturity in the way that he attacked that. A great driving, tactician's head on very young shoulders.
Tactics from a tactical tactician, to be sure. Blake Purdy showing that he's a very quick learner in terms of racing ability. That's the ideal way to remove an opponent from the picture. Make sure that you show them what you want to do, let them make the mistake on their own.
Yes, and that's what we are seeing here. Drivers are trying to make minimal mistakes at this very high pressure Oran Park circuit. We've said right before the start of this race, there is no respite, there is no breaks around here. You've got to make this one work, and Thomas Hinz is feeling that more than anybody else. He's let that gap slip to now 2.1 seconds right now as the battle for the final spot on the podium heats up. McLeod now has Borg and firmly Stephen Varga, who's now just 7 tenths behind. Look down to the inside, bit of contact there. Borg got desperate. He saw that he was getting bogged up, frustrated at the way that he was being held up by Mitchell McLeod, and went, you know what, I'm going to go for broke and see what happens. Didn't quite work.
Nah, that's worked out for the worse for him. You know, it's something that we learn as sim racers very early on. If you make a move, you got to commit to it. Otherwise, it's undoubtedly going to end up worse for you. Having said that, Brian Borg, he has started catching back up to McLeod, but that half a lap of opportunities lost, he's going to be ruining that.
He is, and he's not got long either. He's got 6 laps when he crosses the line, and that gap at the front just took half a second off. Thomas Hinz has found a bit of pace back in that vehicle. 106.6 there from Jason Hyde, and he's going to start feeling that then in his number 8 machine. And there's not much more that the EMR industry sponsored car is going to try and do and try and find. So it's all about pressure. Let's not forget as well that Mitch McLeod has copious amounts of damage from the early stages of this event that he's not been able to repair. Compared to Borg, compared to Varga, I think his car is probably the dirtiest of the 3.
Yeah, certainly. That's something that is immediately obvious. Mitchell McLeod getting that front-end damage from being one of the drivers. Oh, Jacob Knight losing a spot actually to Riley Blythe, and Blythe giving the position back?
Yeah,
there might have been contact.
There was contact through turn 3, so let's get a replay on this. So down to the inside goes Blythe, he just tags the quarter panel and has a little bit of a moment with it. Behind that was Ryan Jones getting involved. And, well, Riley Blythe decides, you know what, I'm just going to check it up. I'm going to redress it because I don't feel confident making that. But all of a sudden, Ryan Jones is staring 6th position down in the face here, and he doesn't quite know what to make of it. Look at this then from Brian Borg. Has a massive look to the inside. Can't quite pick a pocket or two. And, well, you've got to be a character in Oliver Twist if you're going to make that move.
Yeah, certainly, and Mitch McLeod once again getting a good exit from turn 2. It's going to help him, and this section of the circuit, Brian Borg is going to have to stay behind. There's no real passing opportunities from this point forward.
There absolutely isn't, and now these drivers just have to be patient and wait for the opportunity to come to them. Look at Thomas Hinz as well, took another 2 tenths out of Hyde, gap down to 1.4. Now does Hyde have anything left to respond with? There's traffic in the form of Graham Fyland and Simon Vella just in front as well, so that's something just to be a little bit careful of as he gets very aggressive on the power, trying to get it down, and I'm not sure this gap is going to continue to decrease. Maybe it is. 1.1. Hinzy's turning on the style, the pressure, and everything else in between.
He's getting into the rhythm, is Hinsey. This is going to be a great battle for the lead. Jason Hyde and Thomas Hinz, both drivers that we've seen quite a bit of Brian Borg and Mitch McLeod continuing to fight, and Steven Varga is well in on this. It's a proper three-car battle. Did Brian Borg mess up the exit there? We got a car off. Jawad Karoni actually just in front of these guys. Thomas Hinz had to take massive avoiding action because he was very slow.
Yes, but Fyland hasn't really done too much.
What happened to Hyde? What happened to Hyde? He's right there. Thomas Hinz is right there with him.
He is, and McLeod and Borg side by side, so it was really Hyde who struggled with Karoni the most, and we got side-by-side action. It's all kicking off now. McLeod trying to hold off Brian Borg. Vargas just looking at this one going, come on guys, give me a lane, I want to go through, I want to get a position. Nothing. McLeod holds on as they head to the dogleg. All of a sudden, battle for the lead. Firmly on as Thomas Hinz looks to book his place in split one with a move, and he's got himself 3 laps to make it happen here, and they've got 2 bits of traffic to deal with as well. One is Simon Vella, one is Adam Gardner, who are in their own little scrap. Now Jason Hyde, for the first time today, has got to defend with everything that he's got available to him. Hinzy looks down to the inside, doesn't find it.
No, he certainly doesn't, and my goodness, this battle for the lead is absolutely scintillating at the moment. Jason Hyde getting a bit of a narrow entry, too wide on the exit at turn 5. Or was that turn 4? My apologies. Goodness me, look at Hinzy right on the back of him here through this section.
Well, he's just got to be consistent through this bit. He's got to make it happen at 1. A little double take there from Jason Hyde coming through 8 and into 9. And again, running a little wide on exit now. He's feeling the pressure. Thomas Hinz is using banks of experience. The tyres are going. You're absolutely right. I think this is going to be a case of, well, how long can you stave off the challenge here? Jason Hyde gets a bit of wall and gets a massive drift over to the middle of the track. Now Hinzy's got the best chance possible. Will he look down to the inside? You bet he does, and leaving a lot of room there was Hyde, who takes that uber wide line. Can he get it checked up? No, he cannot. Thomas Hinz takes the lead with 2.
My goodness, that was incredible stuff. That's completely changed the face of this race.
And
you know what? Oh my goodness, Brian Borg, it's going wrong for him. There's a couple of cars off the first 2 turns, actually, and that's Simon Vella. Oh, whoa, hang on a minute, Borgie, goodness me. Those lunges won't always work. Now Mitchell McLeod is running away with this. Steven Varga is fist pumping in that cockpit. Brian Borg banging his wheel in frustration.
Not over yet. There is still another lap, and look at Jason Hyde struggle now. That gap has extended over a second, and this is a resignation of defeat. So late on. You still got Brian Borg trying everything. Very slow there was Varga trying to deal with a slide, and Hyde has found the wall as well, and this is really big trouble for Jason Hyde, who is sinking without a trace. I think he's got damage. If he's gonna have to come down to lane or survive 1 lap, he will choose to survive 1 lap, and look at the crab that Jason Hyde has as the final lap comes up. A very quick replay then as we get a look of what's happened here. Heading himself out of turn number 9, he does okay. Through 10 and 11 though, this is where the issue happens. Gets himself through the dogleg and just struggling on the exit. 1, 2, wiggle, bang, hard into the wall. That was not what he wanted to see, but now this is what he will have to deal with. Battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Decides to just get itself into a bit of struggle. Hyde is out of the event, and this is now a battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. A shame after such a strong drive, but was just 2 laps short of the mark. One driver who was not short of the mark is one having to deal with an off-track Adam Gardner, who will let the leader through. That is Thomas Hinz, who has had a lot of issues to deal with in his personal life over the last couple of months, but he has fought back from adversity, and he will now have the biggest grin on his face because Thomas Hinz is heading to split 1. He wins at Oran Park in a dramatic split 2 win.
Incredible performance from Hinzy, have to say. That was one of the drives of the day so far for me. Mitchell McLeod coming 2nd, and Steven Varga completing the podium. Brian Borg, a very frustrating end for him. How about Hyde, though? That was a real shame. Mark Newton and David Kinman still battling here for these final few positions on the lead lap, but looks like Jason Hyde, he really had a big spin in turn 1, trying to recover from that earlier spin.
Look at Larnock. It's a drag race between him and Brett Hender, and Hender's just going to hold off in the end. Kinman beats Newton in their own little scrap. And my, oh my, oh my, oh my. Final little battles then coming to the end. Martin Casey cannot get past Shane Evans. And the rest come through. So let's get classified results then, because this was a big, big race, and so much has happened in the final few laps. A lot of changes up and down the order. It's Thomas Hinds who will have a grin from ear to ear as he battles off personal demons to get himself a big, big victory. Mitchell McLeod will take second position, not quite one place short. Stephen Varga fights hard for a third place finish, with Brian Borg fading to fourth in the final stages. Jacob Knight takes a big top 5 after starting 24th. Biggest mover and shaker, though, has to go to this man. 25 positions for Riley Blythe, and my goodness, did he show the pace that he has in the Evolution Racing Team setup. Ryan Jones maybe had the shot of a top 5. It was 7th position in the end, and 8th position going to the very young but very talented Blake Purdy.
Yes, indeed. Blake Purdy beating out Tyler Blackburn for 8th place. And Jamie McKnight rounds out the top 10 from 25th place. Scott O'Keefe makes it 11th from 27th, while Scotty McQueen finishes 12th in the end. Luke Page and Brett Hender behind him. Scott Larnack manages to finish 15th. And David Kinmond up from 35th to 16th. Another good performance from him.
Mark Newton had struggles today. He falls back to 17th, with Blake Neck having to try and make a recovery. He can only make 18th position. Alex Greenwood gets himself 30th to 19th, with Will Dodd up 18 of his own into the top 20. And Ian Bird had his own troubles. He dropped back to 21st. Christian Smart was involved in a lap 1 incident. He gets himself 22nd, with Shane Evans and Martin Casey 23rd and 24th.
Brenton O'Brien comes home in 25th. A late race incident with the Frenchman. Jawad is what ended up snowballing into that lead change. Damon Mulqueen in 26th, last car finishing on the lead lap, and then you see Jason Hyde there in the results. Smashed up his car too badly. He retired after spinning in turn 1. Adam Gardner and Dale Niche come home as well, with Jawad Karoni rounding out the top 30. Graham Filand and Brett Gerards 31st and 32nd.
And then the retirees, Dion Peters, Simon Vella was running around 9 laps down. Adam Blocker, not the start he wanted to his season. Bruce Kiley, Benjamin Smith, Justin Wallace, and Michael Taliancic getting caught out massively in a very action-packed turn number 1. But we need to take a step aside at the moment, and this is going to be something very, very strong to see for the Split 1. If that's anything to go by, we're in for a treat. Stay with us as coverage heads towards Split 1 qualification.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Section's very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the V8 Supercars Online Premier Series presented by the Virtual Racing School. And my goodness me, we have seen some great racing in terms of battling right at the death. Maybe standards have to be looked at after a race like this at Oran Park. Drivers got very, very aggressive, but it won't matter for the number 52 machine, who has come home with a massive victory and a place in Split 1. Thomas Hinds stood by with me right now. Tommy boy. Well, it's been a long break, actually, from you out of the sim. Really just trying to find yourself, maybe having a few struggles with personal demons here and there. Just how important of a victory does this mean?
Yeah, quite. Well, the through and through of it is, to be real, to use my lingo, I didn't really plan to do top split. I kind of came in tonight and went, I'll just go do second split. That's why I did a quick bin pre-qual, got second split. I was like, cool, let's do second split, have a good race, lovely. Juicy, you know, beautiful. And then that all happened, and now I'm like, well, I guess I'm doing top split. I'm not going to like it at work tomorrow because I do night shifts, so I'm not going to like it, but I think it'll be worth it, hopefully. So can't really say no after that finish. Yeah, that was, I do still race like officially in that, but I don't really not able to do leagues much with work. So yeah, it is a bit weird, you know. I'm not as quick as I probably used to be in the V8. I'm not quite as consistent. So yeah, to win that, especially like that, or just, you know, such a high pressure track and everything is, yeah, really cool, really cool. That's, yeah, I'm kind of lost for words. I was just freaking out the last 5 laps, going, what's going on? Everyone's dying. Oh my god. So yeah, quite important, I think.
And let's go through that mindset of the final 5 laps, because you have Jacques Caroni's vehicle, which checks both you and also Jason Hyde up. You see maybe that Jason Hyde's got a bit of damage that he has to contend with. You got that opportunity to go out there, be aggressive with 2 to go. Were you really expecting Jason to drop off that much, struggling with the tyre life?
Yeah, a little bit. I could see he was sliding around a bit more than I was. I could see him and Mitch were sliding a bit more. I usually try and keep it really straight, really smooth as much as I can. Something I always try and work on with my driving. So I figured I'd probably towards the end have a bit more tyre left. I had a lap there. I just had a couple of little errors and lost a few tenths. So I kind of gave me motivation to push a bit more and try and close the gap. And yeah, no, not completely surprised, but a little bit. I did those few laps there. I think I gained 2 or 3 tenths in a couple of those laps, and I was a bit like, oh, okay, we might still have half a chance here. And then obviously all the shenanigans happened. So yeah, I'm not completely surprised, but a little bit, yeah.
You're the 3rd different Split 2 winner in 3 different races. You now move yourself over to top splits action and 2 more races this evening. Question becomes, how do you approach that mentality, knowing that coming in, you've had maybe a chance to get your eye in ahead of other drivers?
Yeah, it definitely helps. Obviously, you know, you get to do a race and get a race sim basically before the everybody else, which is pretty great. So it definitely helps. Hopefully, should mean I can get the groove a bit quicker. I'll just drive and see how I go. I'm not really expecting anything, as I said, planning or expecting to be in top split tonight. So yeah, I'll just go out, have a go, and have a lob, to quote Stenny and all the guys. But yeah, see how we go, and you know, if I get some good results, then great, sweet. But I'm just happy to make top split because yeah, as I say, I wasn't planning it, so I'm already happy as is.
Well, before we let you go, Mr. Hinsey, any shout-outs, any sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank?
Oh boy, I may have to remember this. Hopefully, Dave doesn't kill me too much. So I think Into the AM, Craig set up GT Omega. I think we got Discord on there. CD Keys links on there. David's going to kill me when he hears this back because I never really planned to have to rattle this off. But you know, thanks to all those guys who were on the car. You know, really appreciate the sponsorship, and the car looks fantastic. I've heard people seem to like it, which is great. I think it's fantastic for what was effectively a rush job. Very, very good. And yeah, just I guess yeah, that's really about it for once. I don't know very else. Thanks to you guys as per usual. You know, you put on a great show as always. So yeah, awesome stuff for you guys, and bring on top split.
No worries at all. Thomas Hinds with a massive race victory. And, well, It's another driver from the same similar area as Thomas Hinds. Reese, you found the Talking driver Mitchell McLeod.
Yes, indeed. I'm here with Mitch McLeod right now. Mitch, you ended up second in the end, but it could have been a win for you were it not for a few big moments along the way.
Well, yeah, it depends which way you look at it. Turn 1 or 1A or whatever you technically would call it, Reese. That was a bit interesting going into turn 1. But I did everything I could to try and get out of the way. I think, I can't remember who it was, but yeah, that moved across and had a little bit of contact there. And as a result of that, I gained quite a lot of spots on the exit of turn 1, 2. So I was in a good shape. And then the safety car, obviously, which caught me back up to Jason Hyde. And then, yeah, after the pit stops, I pitted a little bit early. I could see that there was a bit of a gap in traffic. And, yeah, after that, I was like, yeah, I might nearly do this. And then, obviously, that incident with the lap traffic, well, it wasn't lap car, but it was pitting and got caught up in it. So what could have been, eh?
Yeah, certainly. But the battle with Brian Borg at the end and Stephen Varga too was something that really caught our eye on the broadcast. What was that like from your perspective? Quite a few lunges.
Yeah, no, they were unreal, eh? With Borgie, there was a couple of late break movers, which around here it's so hard to pass. You have to do, and I seen them coming, so I just left enough room. Hope that old tyres, I'd get more drive by staying wide and be able to hang on to it. But going side by side around that tight twisty section for that long, I don't know how we didn't make contact, or let alone how I stayed in front. It was unreal.
So it was fun from your perspective.
Oh, definitely. And kudos to the other guys, like Borgie. Like, he gave me room when he didn't need to. Like, I probably would have been a little bit more unfair, maybe. Unfair is probably the wrong word, but I wouldn't have given as much room as what he did.
Righto. Well, either way, it's been a good result for you, Mitch. Second in Split 2, something to definitely come away with positives from tonight. So before we let you go, who would you like to thank?
Oh, you guys and everyone for the great racing tonight. Like, around a track like this, absolutely unreal. I didn't expect to make second split around here, let alone be fighting for the last spot into the top split. So, really, really enjoyed it. Thanks again.
Mitch McLeod there, number 40 from Talk Inc. Sperry. Now, we move into the Split 1 action very soon. Hinsey has already had 35 laps of race experience around Oran Park this year in V8SCOPS. Now he's going to have a whole lot more with some of the best in the business.
Oh, you bet he is, and some of the best in the business have put their times in already. In the likes of AOSC, some best in the business have been working hard in the likes of the OSR V8 series on Wednesday night. There is so many opportunities to practice, and all these drivers have been putting in that time, that effort, and that dedication to try and win this one race. And my goodness, qualifying is going to be so much tighter than I think so many people think that it's going to be. Oran Park proves to be a delight, and we will showcase that as we get action geared towards qualifying in the next few moments. We're going to step aside here on the RSN Sports Network with more after this.
Assist to the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Rayon Fowler into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing.
Lead to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save.
Look to the outside as Tronke goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
Trying this contact though. Slide left to the racetrack. Chris Renner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe. Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Makashube, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
chair of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMary at the line.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Virtual Racing School V8 Supercars Online Premier Series, the biggest Australasian sim racing league in this realm, and arguably the biggest V8 league in the world at the moment. And it has to be said, the best as well. We've seen some brilliant racing in Super Split 2, mainly down to just how entertaining it proved to be. But it's about this now, Split 1, and how to battle it out with the best, and all of the best are trying to make their pushes, make their claims to really get themselves up there and scrapping for some big points here at Oran Park, because they know that they're not travelling very far from Sydney to get to their next round of the championship race. It's Phillip Island after this, and Phillip Island, as we know, is the Synergy track.
It absolutely is. Synergy Sim Racing, they've shown that Phillip Island is one of their strongest tracks. The likes of Glenn Postlethwaite and Brenton Hobson historically doing very well there. So we're looking forward to seeing how things pan out at Australia's fastest circuit. But this track that we're at right now is basically the opposite of Phillip Island in almost every way. It's got very harsh elevation changes, a very low average speed, and very rarely do you have the wheel in a completely straight line.
Very, very true. But let's get the championship standings then up on your screen, because this is going to be a very important round of the championship for a number of reasons. It's Ethan Griggold who has control of the series at the top, but by not very much at all by the standards that we have seen over previous seasons. The gap is 4 points over his teammate Ian Ford, with Madison down third in the championship. Jared Filsell finds himself fourth, with Jake Maloney in fifth and Cooper Webster in sixth position. No Dane Warren today. He is serving a one-round suspension for too many points on his license, and no Wayne Burke either, because he is busy off in Australian Nationals karting. We've got Forzan El Nabi in ninth position after what was a very entertaining but not necessarily the cleanest run at the circuit into Lagos, and Chris Coxhead having a very good run in the V8 Sleuth esports car, rounding out the top 10 as things stands in the championship. But crucially, it has been the Mr. Consistencies that have been the big key, and really it is Mr. Dependable Ian Ford that I want to focus on. No wins in the last 2 years, or when it's come to him on his own, but what he has been able to do is finish so good, so consistently over the course of a season, and that is what brings Ian Ford to a level that I think puts him in a title challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. You can say the same for his teammate as well, Ethan Griggold, on screen at the moment going through turn 2. This guy's performances last year really made people sit up and take notice. He took his first win in the series last year at Laguna Seca, and he was one of the title challengers coming into the last half of the season. It didn't go exactly as he wanted, but he still had a second place in the championship for his troubles. And with his championship rival from last year joining him at Evolution Racing Team, Ethan Griggold has certainly shown that he's got what it takes to challenge for the title. This guy on screen, on the other hand, this guy, oh my goodness, Jared Filsell, what a season it's been for him so far. Not quite what we expected.
Not at all. And I tell you what, if Jared Filsell is walking a tightrope, he is walking probably the tightest tightrope he has ever had, because he finds himself not only fourth in the championship, not only having to deal with a very turbulent and frustrating, probably the most frustrated I've ever heard Jared Filsell after 3 rounds of racing, but this is a Jared Filsell that's 5 points away from having a round ban on his license. He picked up so many points coming out of Interlagos. He was not happy with the TTL drivers, who maybe he felt maybe some had a vendetta against him at some stages, which is potentially toxic, I think, for Korolev and Black, the stewards, to deal with in the future. But really, it's about now, how does Jared Filsell bounce back and prove all the doubters wrong about his skill when he's got himself the likes of pro racing that he's got coming up in the Porsche World Championship, along with the likes of this championship in V8SCOPS, which is about trying to pick up a 4th title.
Yes, indeed. He's won his last 3 on the trot with a break in between, as Madison Down took a title a couple of seasons back. But we just saw the race information on screen as Jared Filsell does a practice start out of pit lane. Reasonably warm track. It's going to be an out-and-out sprint for this one. 30 laps for the first race of the night. But Sperry, as we go into qualifying, it's going to be pretty significant. This is a super sprint format. Qualifying times count for both races in this event format. Your quickest time all up is where you will start in race 1. Your second quickest time is where you'll start in race 2. So drivers have to get times on the board.
And with a hotter track condition that we have here at Oran Park, This could be potentially a deadly combination, as many drivers will be now looking to put in great banker times, and I have seen a couple of drivers here and there just struggling to get into the session quickly, and this is going to put them in a really difficult position. A lot of drivers, though, having to be really adaptable as we get ourselves underway. First vehicle is Go Lee, who's going to get himself first times on the board as he exits pit road first. Here is a driver who has been more no-Lee than Go-Lee, as he has, in the last 2 rounds of the championship, found himself in massive instance in both. He's got to find a way to buck the trend.
Yeah, he certainly does, and you see that shot of everyone piling out of pit lane. Very narrow pit entry and exit here at Oran Park, so the drivers have to be very careful how they go with other cars around them, and you see those amazing long shots of them making their way around the circuit up through this unique figure layout. Oh, goodness me. Hins and Preston briefly coming together there on the outlap. That's a bit awkward, but that's what happens here at Oran Park when you've got 40 V8 supercars out on track at the same time.
It is. I'm not sure Preston was quite looking where he was going there. I think that he was weaving around trying to get some heat into the tyres, but ultimately didn't really have too much that he could do from it. So now the question becomes, how much room do you give drivers? There's now the first times will come in. So it will be Lee Ellis first, then Chris Coxhead, Sean Kelly, Jared Filsell, Michael Healy, Griffin Gardner, Ian Ford, Jordan Ross, Brett Loxton, and Brad Ryan. The top 10. Great to see Brad Ryan have a great pre-qualification as well in the Seamworks TTL machine. He was 6th position overall, and he is someone looking to really put a cat amongst the pigeons and get a very good start to his season underway. We'll see how the first times come in. Let's go on board with number 1, the Australian phenom himself, Jared Filsell, up through 4, small kink right of 5, and then that will lead to the next right of 6 over Yokohama Bridge. Now you start looking towards 7 and 8, this right-left flick switchback section where you just have to be very patient. The off-track incidents are very, very tight around here, and then you've got turn 9 here, this beautiful uphill left-hander. You've got to be so careful about where you put the power down. Bravery plus needed here through 10 and 11 at the dogleg, and then you hit the brakes hard for the bank turn 12, the final corner here on the Oran Park Raceway. We'll see what the first times are when they come in on the board. At the moment, Lee Ellis on a 1:05.2, 1:04.7 for Sean Kelly, 1:04.3 for the phenom.
Yes, indeed. That's really awesome to see from Jared Filsell right out of the box. 4/10 up on other cars, but
1/10.
Okay, yes, it's slowly decreasing, as we can see. Madison Down putting in a 1:04.4. Brad Ryan currently sitting in 3rd. And we currently take a look at Andrew Gilliam for Pursuit Sim Racing. This guy's pre-qualifying performance was very impressive. He was 4th in pre-qualifying, and wow, he's continuing to do really well. 4th at the moment in actual qualifying.
Yes. And we've got Kurt Stenberg here, who is stopped out on circuit, and that's not going to be ideal. There is a no escape rule in full effect. I think he's just looking for a bit of clean track at the moment, just to get a lap going here, and he's got to be careful that he doesn't let those tyres completely cool off, because cold tyres are the last thing that he wants to set a lap time on. He's let Scott Zlowski go at the moment as he looks to make a push. Someone who is struggling at the moment is the 33 of Jake Burton, and this is why here today, Reese. He's had just a few hours before the start of this event. His wheel completely broke on him. He's now in somebody else's place now, driving in a sim rig. He's lucky he's got a friend called Christopher Kessie very near to him. But ultimately, Jake Burton is on an unfamiliar setup, in an unfamiliar rig, and now has got to have a very familiar drive.
Yeah, certainly. Jake Burton currently over in Sydney for the first round of the Toyota 86 series that he competes in, and that's someone spinning in front of Burton. Yeah, Kyle Stokes at the moment. But Burton usually in Perth, but currently on the other side of the country. So when your sim wheel breaks down on you and you're about 3,500 kilometers away from home, it's not an optimal situation to be in. So we'll see how he does.
You can't just pop into the casual sim racing wheel replacement shop and get a brand new one. It's not how things work like that around here. Your top 10 as things stands: Phil Sell, Grig Galt down, Ryan, Gilliam, Myers, Ross, Elnabi, Kelly, Hamstead. Keep an eye on Brady Myers in the 22. Yes, his engines sometimes blow up from time to time, as we saw last season, but take a look at what he was able to do in AOSC just 2 weeks ago. He took Jared Filsell all the way to the limit, and this is what he's going to try and find. This is what he's going to try and need. He's going to need a very similar result to the one that he had, and it is worth talking about how strong TTL have shown up here today, because they have 3 inside of the top 10 as things stand.
Yes, indeed, and clouds coming over the circuit as well. You can see the entire circuit briefly bathed in darkness. Of course, iRacing with dynamic weather and dynamic track now really adds an extra element to the racing that we see. Drivers having to adapt to different conditions. If you're on a hot lap right now, it's a very good time. There's less sunlight, less UV hitting the track as we take a look at Chris Coxhead as he starts a lap.
Yeah, he starts the lap. Got likes of James Duckworth looking to put in some good times as well. Coxhead is down in 28th position at the moment in the V8 Sleuth car, so that's not ideal for the man 10th in the championship. He needs to find a little more. You're not going to find any if you Tokyo your way through 3, and he gathers it up on the exit, but he is trying to push a little too hard, in my opinion, to get these cloud cover conditions in favour. It's partly cloudy. The track temp is 33 degrees at the moment, so getting out on track, getting those laps in are so vital for everyone at the moment. They've got to time the conditions right, because it's not just that first lap that matters, it's the second one as well. And you talk about margins, finer margins in this field. Just talk about the fine margin right now between 19th and 21st. It's 5 thousandths with Rizzo and Healy tied.
Yeah, goodness me, that's quite the gap right there. Ross Rizzo and Michael Healy, of course, now teammates at Trick Sim Sports. Let's have a look at Coxhead. What can he throw on the table? He's done a 1:05.352. That is slower than his current personal best. What about Brad Ryan in 4th? It's another slow lap time from him. So the drivers in this mid-stage of the session trying to sort themselves out. Ethan Gridgold, what can he do?
What can he find? Of course, winner last time out in the final round. That was a 1:04.7, which is okay for the moment. And just looking at his qualifying times, that will count at the moment as his second fastest lap that he is able to do. A little bit of traffic in front is Marlon McMullen, who was second, as we do have one vehicle who is stopped, and that is Andrew Fraser trying to let things go. Filsell, though, he's looking to improve his times. Currently number 1 on his vehicle, and he's proving that because he is the reigning, defending 2-time holder straight away. But now over the line, what can the ERT driver find? Another 1:04.3. Bang, bang, Jared wants pole for both.
Wow, that's really good, eh? That's exactly what Jared needs. And the sun has just come out just in time as well. We take a look at Richard Hamstead. He currently sits in 10th place. A bit of traffic up ahead coming into the final turn. That's not going to do wonders for his self-confidence coming to the end of this lap. And drivers coming into the pit lane in front of him, potentially no. Let's have a look at the time. It's in the 1:04s. It's a 1:04.8.
It is a 1:04.8, so very interesting then. The times that we are starting to see here as Brady Myers, oh, my indeed. The 22 finding himself with a few issues as he makes his way to the line, and is there any improvement? I doubt there would be. Answer is 1:04.998, so no, there is not, as the track starts to heat up just a little bit more, as drivers now starting to work out, where do I need to be? Where do I position myself to get the best times that's needed? Right now, there is a whole train of drivers who are looking to try and find themselves in a good position right now. Duckworth has just moved up into 17th position, but I'm looking at this because Ian Ford has just steamrolled and vaulted himself up inside the top 10.
Oh, he has a 1:04.724 current fastest lap time. That is consistent with his previous times in the session. His second fastest time is an 1:04.801, so less than a tenth between his times at the moment. That's what he's going to want.
Is up into 8th position now, Richard Hamstead. He finds the improvement he's been looking for. The track is rubbering in and coming into these drivers, I think, at this stage. And you've got to talk about how quickly this rubber goes down here at Oran Park. You've got 41 vehicles all pounding away at the track and really rubbering this Sydney asphalt in. And this is what the worry is going to be. A lot of drivers now need to be really strong and careful with this. Madison down in the 77. often forgotten about when it talks about him and Trans-Tasman Racing. We've seen how they've really minimised their sponsors for this year with the virtual racing school sponsors. They said, we only need this sponsor to really be quick, but he's not going to have much help when you've got the AOSC Championship leader having massive moments in front of you in Kyle Stokes. Goodbye, sir. And there's a log jam at pit entry. James Scott, James Duckworth, Tom Freer, Griffin Gardner's going to stop, Brad Ryan's going to stop. It's chock-a-block, and nobody's going to see it. Uh-oh, indeed. This is not the plan, and there is the escape. So I think James Scott's qualifying may just be done.
My goodness, Matt Morris done as well. So now the queue at the entry to pit lane has sorted itself out. That's certainly going to put a dent in quite a few drivers' sessions. What's he done?
Oh, Hinzy's just leapfrogged Hampstead and McMullen in the pits. They were sleeping, going, oh, well, I guess we're going to have to wait then. And they were pretty much caught at the red light with a police car behind them because the sirens went, move on, come on, get going.
So this is a replay of what went on here. Hins making his way around. That's hilarious.
Oh, well, V8SCOPS has to have its fair share of the funny side moments, but for the moment, it's about now how strong is your qualifying. Forzan Onabi is in 7th position at the moment as we once again focus on the number 1 of Jared Filsell, and no surprises, he's giving Jordan Ross a bit of a toe. What? He's going to go Jim Carner into the massive karting infield section. I love that part of the track. I drive that all the time when I get a bit of spare time, but Jordan Ross will not be too happy that he's found himself there.
No, certainly not, and that's a TTL Esports car stopped it was just in the front of the frame there. So Ross trying to keep as much dirt off his tyres as possible. Nick Cummings was the TTL car with those issues. Let's have a look from the point of view of Jared Filsell, working the wheel very hard coming down into the last corner here at Oran Park, and it's a very good exit for him as well, but he's going to abandon that one and go straight for the pits.
Yes, he is. As Andrew Gilliam now, we focus on just for the time being. We got ourselves over half distance. There's 8 minutes remaining now when it comes to qualification, and Andrew Gilliam has been the surprise of the season so far. He has really turned up, and he's going to open up to start a flying lap here and really give a sense of just how difficult this is, and he's going to use all of the track on pit road to give himself that opportunity to go out there and to attack. So it was a 106.9 that last time by, but he's gearing up for a second lap on these tyres, and that's not always the right strategy. Into 2, he finds himself going little puff of smoke then as he gets himself on the brakes as he goes down the hill, looking at turn number 3 in one of only 3 figure-8 circuits on the iRacing service, one of which is a Demolition Derby service, but at the moment, it's certainly not Oran Park. Missed apex slightly heading through 4 in the kink of 5 here, Reece, and this is maybe a little bit scruffy for a lap time for the 201.
Yeah, seems that way so far. He's missed a couple of points on the circuit, but he's trying to keep it together as best he can. We should expect him to either peel into the pit lane or commit to this one. But Gilliam's performances so far this weekend have been nothing short of fantastic. Definitely not a name that I would have expected to see up near the top of the timesheets this early on in the season. He's going to come into the last corner now and go very wide. That lap has been well and truly abandoned.
Well, also struggling there is Brenton Hobson, who gets a big hit, and he doesn't get any help. Brett Loxton from 14th position dives down onto pit road as well. Many expected him to vault up and make a big challenge. Duckworth, though, at the moment, I think is trying to look for his times in the 619. He's 18th position at the moment, and I think he's on a stormer. He's got Go Lee just in front of him, and he's going to pick up that toe off the Trans-Tasman car to make his run, and we'll see what the GRM boy has in store for him. He's got a lot of real-world racing experience. That's a 104.987. That's a great lap for his second run, because it's almost near identical to his first.
Yes, indeed. That's really good for Duckworth. Ensuring a consistent starting position in both races is what you want with this. It really tests the consistency of the drivers in this series. Madison Down ending another run, and Richard Hampstead currently sitting in 8th position. He is still looking to make some improvements.
Corey Preston is beached, and that is going to have to be an escape for Corey
Oh
Preston.
no.
He is beached on tyres, and
dear.
that is right on the North B layout that he is beached on those tyres. I wonder how he's managed to get himself there. Corey Preston finds himself in the most unusual of situations in sim racing, and well, let's get a replay of exactly what has happened brought to you here. He has a massive moment, and I'm sorry, but that's a little bit of a turtle beach for the JMSR car.
Yeah, certainly. Just spun it up on the grass or on the gravel on the exit of turn 1, and that was all she wrote. So, session over for Corey Preston. He'll have to hope that he can stay in the top 20.
He's going to have to hope, because he's 19th at the moment, and 20th position is currently held by James Scott in the 088, who made the big thing happen. Just seen a big incident actually coming out for 2. There's Jared Filsell and Lee Ellis, who have come together. Oh no, Lee, that was not part of the plan. So let's just get an eye on what happens to Filsell here. So Filsell pulls it off to one side. He slows it right down and stops. I think he's knowing he's not going to get it. And Ellis has his own little moment, and bang, in he goes. It compromises the run of Duckworth's lap, and well, the champion has run into the biggest meme of the series so far.
Well, it looks to me like Filsell was actually trying to do a practice start with that, if not try and find a gap. Of course, I think he wasn't expecting Lee Ellis to spin it up out of turn 2 and go straight into his rear bumper.
No love lost between former teammates, I can tell you that much right now. But for the time being, it's about not what you want to do for Jake Burton. He spins it coming out of 5. He's struggling with Team Hyperdrive's boss, Christopher Kessie's rig. So at the moment, it may just be, go careful, buddy. There's a lot that you need to do in the future, but I think a lot of drivers are now trying to work out, well, can we find anything more? There's been no cloud cover for the last 5-6 minutes or so, and that's been one of the reasons why we haven't seen those times start to tumble. Maybe late changes is what is needed, but that top 10 has stayed in stone for at least the last 5 minutes or so. And I think for drivers, it's about now getting that good second lap in and making sure for that second race that they are going to be in a really good position. Because as things stand, it's very clear to me, it's Filsell pole on both races like last year.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. And the drivers that need to make improvements, they don't have much time. They got 3 minutes left to try and set a lap time. Brett Loxton for Zuva Racing currently. Making his way around the final sector. This guy's done really well as well. His performances at Montreal have been certainly ones to look at, and 14th position at the moment in qualifying. Certainly nothing to sneeze at. Little bit wide on the exit though.
Yeah, he is just slightly wide at the moment, is Brett Loxton, but he now dives down onto pit road for the moment. Looking at Brenton Hobson, he's not had the best qualifying. I'm not sure he likes it here. He's in 28th position right now, and after a lot of work that needs to be done by his standards, he's got a lot of quick drivers. He's going to have to try and battle his way through, but Hobbo 88 has not had the most ideal preparation, so to speak, Reese, when it's come to this start of the season.
Yeah, certainly not. It's been some difficult times recently for Brenton Hobson. He's been a very busy boy in the last couple of years. So, despite the 6th place meme that he was the center of at the start of last year, he hasn't quite reached those heights occasionally since then. Big oversteer moment coming through the middle sector. I think that sums up what his session has been like so far.
Yeah, and he's just managed to get past Thomas McMillan, who's desperate to prove himself because, knock wood, he doesn't get himself involved in too many situations. He's just come back off a 6-race suspension off of the back of last season. And, well, if there's any time to prove yourself, why don't you just get yourself nice and eased off into a race with a very tight pack, with a lot of battling in the middle of the field where you're likely to get your elbows out and incidents are high.
Yeah, well, at a track like Oran Park, where carnage happens more easily than at other places. It's very tight quarters around here for Thomas McMillan, a new signing for One Performance Racing after the collapse of All Star Motorsports. So coming back to V8SCOPS for McMillan, it's going to be a bit of a test for him.
1 minute warning then comes up here at Oran Park. It's about getting your lap time in, getting it in quickly, because there will be drivers who will be abandoning their final laps. Brad Ryan is not one of them, as he gets a 106.4 off on and away, looking to get his big lap time going. Ethan Grigalt will have one final lap once you cross the start-finish line. At the end of 20 minutes, you've got till the end of your lap to complete it. 104.8, not ideal then by his standards. McMillan will give up. Golee will give up. Got Glenn Postlethwaite who will decide to dive in. Look at all these drivers. You've got Tom Freer in his first top split event. He's going to try and get himself a lap in, and you have to argue he needs it. 105.4, 40th position at the moment, Reese.
Yes, indeed. Well, he's not gotten that next lap off to a good start at all. So Freer, I think, might be right at the back in both races here. Brett Loxton, no improvement for him either. He remains in 14th. What about Ross Rizzo? Currently sitting in 22nd. The checkered flag is flying, so Rizzo is going to have to make this one count. Let's see what he can do coming through the final turn. Smooth, calm, and collected. What we've grown to be used to from Ross Rizzo. Up into 4th, 5th, and it's going to be a mid-105 for him. 22nd it is for race 1.
Certainly is. James Duckworth will not continue on his lap. What about Greg Galt? Cannot find any more pace. Cooper Webster decides he's going to go all out, but he's not going to find anything, and he gets out of the way of Jack G. Boyd in the GRM car, who tries to not make a ploy for the line. Tom Freer will not go any quicker. Kyle Stokes, I'm not sure, has the pace to go faster. He's going to dive it down onto pit road. Burton's not going to find anything. Last driver to cross the line was Chris Coxhead. So this is who we need to focus on at the end. I'm not sure we're going to see any changes in position, but Coxhead, I think, is just going to abandon ship then come the end. Let's get ourselves then qualifying results for this first race up on your screen. Number 1 on pole position, Jared Filsell makes it Evolution Racing Team 1-2 with the championship leader Ethan Grigalt alongside him. Madison Down starts from 3rd with Brad Ryan in 4th, and a great qualifying from Andrew Gilliam to find himself in 5th. Brady Myers starts from 6th with row 4 hosting Falzan El-Nabi and Richard Hampstead. It's all ERT row 5, Jordan Ross and Ian Ford.
Trans-Tasman Racing Sean Kelly lines up in 11th for race 1. Cooper Webster alongside him. Ethan Warren and Brett Loxton as well. Nick Cummings and Marlon McMullen taking up this next row as Josh Muggleton and James Duckworth join each other on row 9. Rounding out the top 20, we got Corey Preston and James Scott.
Jake Burton starts from 21st, Ross Rizzo 22nd. Then you got Michael Healy and Jack Boyd on row 12. Row 13 sees Glenn Postlethwaite and Griffin Gardner. Thomas McMillan and Brenton Hobson on row 14. Row 15, Scott Zaslowski, Chris Coxhead.
Go Lee in 31st position for race 1. Jamian Johnston joins him there. Thomas Hinz, our split 1 winner, joining Carl Stokes on row 17. Michael Cracknell and Andrew Fraser behind them, with David Sanford and Bradley Ratu, 37th and 38th. Top 40 rounded out by Kurt Stenberg, Tom Freer. Matt Morris lining up in 41st.
Yes, he is. And now it's about hold your nerve. There's 2 races. Don't throw it away early, because points combine to be a massive points total. And maybe, yes, you will have that chance in the second race, but you've got to be completely on it with 2 minutes to grid up or to start from the place known as pit road. So these drivers have got to be careful. They've got to be honest with themselves about how they're going to drive this. ERT know that there are some very hungry TTL esports drivers behind, and there's 3 in a line looking at the inside, heading towards turns 1 and 2, which is not maybe what they were hoping. You've got Madison Down, who's hoping to really kick on this season and showcase what he has after a big victory last time out at Interlagos race number 1. But all the way through the top 15, there is proof of progress. Can they find the magic that they have been looking for so long at the virtual Oran Park, which stands as a bastion of Australian sim racing here on iRacing, a track that no longer exists in the real world? Who can stamp their ticket to Phillip Island and take the next momentum? 2 minutes up, lights on top of the iRacing gantry. Let's get ourselves underway. Now, great start from Phil Sell. He launches off the start with a fantastic go.
Wow.
And look at Gilliam now, who's trying to attack the outside. He's already got himself side by side with Ryan, and he's run himself out of a little bit of room there as they now sort of funnel into one, funnel into two. Madison down, tries the outside line. That one's not going to work out in his favour. Big issues in the background. Round goes one of the TTR cars. Was that go Lee who's run into issues? No, that's Muggleton, who seemingly can't avoid a crash this season.
My goodness, Owen, there's more incidents going on further back, and that looks like Kyle Stokes in the background spinning around. That's very unfortunate for quite a few individuals. Bradley Ratu involved as well, and, well, that's going to be the way of things in the back of the field. What's
Sean
going on?
Kelly holds on. Cooper Webster was down the inside. There was huge contact, but somehow holds it together through 6. It checks up Loxton as McMullen tries to look for a way through. Duckworth now trying to get on the aggressive factor. No pit stop needed for 30 laps worth of racing. They're trying everything now to get themselves going, but at the moment, there's one man away. Jared Filsel's away, and he's away by a big margin after one lap. That margin is 0.8 of a second already. He has not come around to play games here this evening.
Certainly not, and that start really showed it. He was absolutely untouchable off the line. Madison Down didn't get off to a very good start himself. Is that Corey Preston with a couple of issues? As my goodness, Hobbo and McMillan going side by side into turn 2. Corey Preston right ahead of them. This is an interesting fight going on further back in the pack. McMillan right in the thick of it on his first race back at V8SCOPS since last year.
And this is not where Hobbo wants to be as he battles it down to the inside at 4. Up and under from Thomas McMillan. That is beautifully done by the youngster who gets a big position. And now Michael Cracknell will want to get in. Crackers wants to play games. Cooper Webster now battling it out with James Duckworth. Holds the inside, little wiggle through 9. Holds it nicely together, but the breakaway forms at Ian Ford. Nick Cummings is the one who's dropping maybe a little bit slightly back, but focus on this for the moment because Andrew Gilliam's under pressure. Richard Hampstead now wants to think about 6th position in this event and get himself up +2 to then make Gilliam a -2 on the brakes into 1 and 2. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing from him, but behind them, Jordan Ross and Brady Myers getting really close quarters. Replay of the start coming up for Richard Hampstead. Big move! That's a bit of a deja vu moment, and I think Gilliam helped him set himself straight there.
Oh, well, that was great work from Gilliam to straighten up Richard Hampstead. It's the cost of a position, though, for the pursuit car. So TTL find themselves with a little bit of a boost then with the hands of Hampstead, but they've completely dropped Forzan El Nabi. Replay of the start, though, coming up for you on your screen right now. Filso got a stellar launch. It was inch perfect, and you can't get any better than that in a V8 supercar, has to be said. And of course, that partnership with Apex Racing Team coming into play very, very nicely, has to be said. There was the contact there, so there was McMullen, and there was also one of the TTR cars there just getting involved and up and over and not liking things at all as that one looked to continue on, and it still went on. There was Soslowski up on 2 wheels and 1 vehicle around.
Yes, indeed. Just looked like 3 or 4 cars trying to go into the same spot multiple times there. And oh my goodness, that was another view of what happened to Muggleton in the foreground and Bradley Ratu with his issues. Let's see what happened to him. Sandwiched right in the middle and just turned around.
Yep, that's all it had to be and all it was in the end. But let's go back live because we've got some great battling going on at the moment. There is a train forming, and I believe James Scott is the front of a said train. He's got Postlethwaite, Boyd, Burton and Gardner trying to get in, and just behind Griffin Gardner, who is the bridge in the divide, as it were, McMillan, Preston, Hobson, Cracknell, Cox, Soslowski, and trying to get on it is Thomas Hinds, who finds himself in 29th position. So a lot of drivers with a lot of points to prove here. They're right in the middle of the pack, having what I would call a line scramble.
Yeah, definitely seems that way as we take a look at Jordan Ross and Brady Myers, 8th and 9th. You can see Andrew Gilliam right there in front of them. These guys looking to make up a few more positions within the top 10. And Ross and Myers, very close quarters. You can see Myers having a look here, not quite going for it. Not able to commit at this stage.
Well, they've got 1/6 distance of this event score complete at the end of this lap here in this 30-lap sprint race. So they've got to really make sure that they're making the right and the conscious decisions that are to make good moves up and down this field. They know they have to make those moves. Now they just got to go out there and deliver it. But when you've got one vehicle in front of you getting towed from the next vehicle, from the next vehicle, from the next, it's a train which is very difficult as a vicious cycle to break. One which has been broken by the front two, because top three is split by 2.1 seconds. They're not taking toe off each other. The one closest will be Brad Ryan trying to stay with Madison down as this field elongates at the front of the field as this fight continues.
Wow, Postlethwaite there getting into the back of James Scott slightly into the last turn. This fight here for 18th back. Yeah, this is huge at the moment. Oh my God, Andrew Gilliam's been turned.
Wow, Gilly has gone around. And Ian Ford has struggled in all of this as well. Stay with this because here's Ethan Warren trying to attack. And there's more contact. Jordan Ross gets himself in the gravel. They go 3 wide on the exit. As now picking up a position will be Nick Cummings down the inside. Split this one up. Gilliam will lose another position now, this time to Brady Myers. And finally, let's get a replay of exactly what happened here, because my goodness and me, what on earth happened to Andrew Gilliam?
Well, Gilliam, I think it was a slightly botched move by Jordan Ross coming into the first turn. Let's have a look here. Yeah, Ross just went in way too hard, right into the rear quarter. Didn't quite turn Gilliam around, but that was that was the blockage in the pipe that built up a lot of pressure for the guys behind them. And my goodness, punching bags flying around there.
I think the philosophy of the day is don't trust Jordan Ross to be a plumber or something along those lines. But for the moment at least, they just get themselves a bit of calm, because Sean Kelly now finds himself on the rear of this train, and now suddenly I think there's damage to Andrew Gilliam. Here comes Mr. Dependable. Ian Ford goes down to the inside, and that is clean as you like from a driver who garners a lot of respect in this paddock. And I think Ian Ford knows if he's going to keep this championship hunt alive, I need to be a lot higher than 8th position right now.
Yeah, certainly. You got to remember, Ethan Griggolt 4 points ahead of him in the driver's title fight. He is currently running in second. So if Ian Ford can continue making up these places, then it'll be all well and good for him. But back here, Brenton Hobson having a few technical issues, it seems, along with a few other cars in this particular area of the field, and looking quite awkward there at the moment, with a lot of cars vying for space on track.
They're all juggling full position and jostling for something to happen. Side by side, Thomas Hinds on the outside. Sislowski's going to find a way through. Michael Healy's going to join the Swift train, trying to make that charge through. So you got Healy trying to make her way through, Rizzo and Sislowski. That's three trick cards in a row, and I think I've got to call Yahtzee at this one, because they very nearly got all of that through.
Yeah, they certainly did. Into turn 1 for the 8th time now in this race. Kurt Stenberg struggling to grip. Oh, goodness me. Marlon McMullen with a move on James Duckworth there. And
that was nicely done.
It was. It certainly was.
It was. Gap at the front of the field is 1.6 seconds at the moment to Jared Filsell, as now the battle for 5th will soon hot up, because Forzan El Nabi is being closed hand over fist at the moment by Richard Hamstead. That gap coming over that last lap was fractionally quicker by Hamstead, but El Nabi, I think, has been falling backwards into the clutches. It was 7/10. That gap now half a second. So Hamstead, the man on the move at the moment for TTL Esports. Yeah,
certainly. Currently up in that top 6, top 5 area. Forzan El Nabi, a 105.9 versus a 105.7 on the last lap for Richard Hamstead. What is happening to Burton?
Well, he was trying to find a way through on Thomas McMillan, wasn't going to find it into one, locks up, there's trouble, in goes one of the vehicles. I think that was Corey Preston who got caught out, and he's going to drop a handful of positions. Luckily, Michael Cracknell, Crackers holds on. He's going to try and come up and under Burton, who runs wide through 3, and I think it's going to have to be a bold lunge at 4, and is he going to get it? Well, Zuba's going to say we're going to stick it through 5, we're going to stick it through 6, and maybe we might just have to stick it through 7 as well, and no, they're not. So the Aussie Driver Search car drops back, but ultimately, it's now made a train of about 15.
My goodness, there's so many cars in this train. Little replay right here of just what happened to Corey Preston in the midst of all of this. In a second, this is something else that happened at the first couple of turns. Here we go. This is what happened to Preston. Burton locked up, but Preston, he got a hit from Cracknell, but he was still almost getting into the back of Burton. So I think all three drivers a little less grasp of the situation there.
Yeah, and this group continues to scrap because here's James Scott under pressure, Corey Preston as well. There's Thomas Hinds alongside, trying to go the long way around turn 3. You don't often do it a long way around. Oh, there's contact there. Hinds struggled on the exit. And look at the trick car. They're getting a 2-for-1 offer at the supermarket where you buy one overtake, you get one free if you're Michael Healy, and still Hinds is trying to buy down with Preston. Bang! And off he goes, and straight into the grass as well. Preston is not having any love here today, and I'm not going to say it's a factor of Preston. He's trying to drive so cleanly right now, just get rid of the stigma on him, but he's just having no love from anyone who's battling him.
He can't catch a break, can he? It's a real shame to see that happening to Preston, but we're taking a look at James Duckworth in 17th position as he tries to stay with this train in front of him. Sean Kelly and Marlon McMullen right up ahead. Marlon, of course, missing a rear wing, but that doesn't matter too much around Oran Park. Not the most downforce-oriented track in these cars.
No, it certainly isn't, and he's able to keep that pace up then as he staves off Sean Kelly, and James Duckworth tries to stay with Cooper Webster, who's starting to try and gap back to Brett Loxton, who's looking to stay with Jordan Ross then in these early goings. So just keep an eye on this one. You've got to be really careful about the way that you battle here. We've still also got Richard Hampstead versus Forzan El Nabi. El Nabi is responding here, and responding quite nicely because the pair of them are ever so slightly encroaching here on Brad Ryan. And Ryan, who hasn't had too many races in the last couple of years, just has to go careful here because you've just got to keep them at arm's length.
Yes, indeed. Forzan El Nabi and Richard Hampstead still at that stalemate coming into turns 1 and 2. El Nabi actually doing a good job to keep that gap maintained to Hampstead. Meanwhile, how's Andrew Gilliam doing? Nick Cummings right on the back of him here for 9th place.
Vehicle off and around, and it's one of the GRM cars, and it's James Duckworth who's trying to find a way to get back on track. He's going to have to play the reverse game to get himself back going right in the midst of traffic, and the two trick cars come together in tandem, and that was Ross Rizzo getting a tap on Scott Zaslowski. That one not part of the script, but down the inside looks Thomas Hinds, and Duckworth's day, well, he is a lucky duck, but not necessarily an ugly duck after an incident.
My goodness, I'm having a lot of trouble keeping track of everything that's going on throughout the field here. Seems like everywhere you look, there's another car going side by side, another car having an incident. This is James Duckworth recovering from that spin. This is James Duckworth having that spin. Looks like it just happened on his own. So, good that he's managed to get that back going, but my goodness, there's a lot of close quarters here as we look at Loxton and Ross.
Yeah, Jordan Ross at the moment is trying to push forward 106.2 the last time by. Loxton dropped 2/10. Vehicle off in front of them. That's Nick Cummings, who has run himself off at turn number 1, missed his braking point. Into the kitty litter he goes, and now look at Jordan Ross thinking of the inside. Bit of contact between them, and he's going to turn him to boot as well. There's no love lost between ERT and TTL, I'll tell you that much, as now Jordan Ross goes straight on at turn 4 with contact coming along from Brett Loxton, who says thank you, pick it up on the exit, but I think Jordan Ross is going to come straight back in, and he doesn't get the position.
No, he doesn't. Jordan Ross has not had the best last half a lap, neither has Nick Cummings. My goodness, in the middle of this train, they are currently fighting for 11th down to 15th. This is what you're looking at the moment coming into the dog leg, and that is Cooper Webster behind Jordan Ross there. You can definitely tell, a bit more aggressive under the brakes, and Ross, his rhythm has been thrown completely off.
It has, and He's really struggling to adapt to the changing conditions at the moment of, okay, well, who am I battling next? Who am I battling next? He's down 3 positions at the moment, and next up is Brett Loxton on his radar. But look behind, Webster will want to get through. Got McMullen and Kelly going at it right now, and everyone is just trying to find a little bit of track. Kelly's going to look down to the inside. He's a little too early on the brakes, though, and door shut by Marlon McMullen, so they continue racing out on track just for the time being. So that one could have very easily ended in disaster. It doesn't, as they continue. The biggest, though, as we get Michael Cracknell serving a drive-through penalty, as down the inside goes Chris Coxhead, and he picks one up on Hobbo 88.
He certainly does, and Jake Burton up ahead of them at the moment. So Chris Coxhead making his way up through the field. It's been a good run from him so far, currently sitting 22nd after starting 30th. Ian Ford and Brady Myers as well are on your screens at the moment, and both of these guys out of position from where they initially started. Myers looking to make good on losing 1 position early on. Ian Ford on a charge.
Yeah, Ian Ford's got to try and charge and try and make his way through, but we are looking at that battle with Sean Kelly at the moment, and he is desperate to find a way past Marlon McMullen, who was second in pre-qualification, so he does have a turn of pace on him. Nothing there at turn 3, and it's just been a run out of 2 where Marlon McMullen has shone, because he knows that he can defend at every other place when it comes to racing out on track. So keep an eye on that one. Also keep an eye on this. Here's Nick Cummings trying to get around the synergy car of Glenn Postlethwaite, and Podgy is under immense amounts of pressure here. Try and make this one work for him. This battle 17th and 18th out on circuit. Nothing at the moment as they hit just over the halfway stage. Your leader, Jared Filsell.
Yes, indeed. He's just started lap 16. 50% race distance as we ride on board with the 13 machine. Very narrow entry for the driver in front of him there. But it looks like they're both going reasonably well up in that section of the field. Glenn Postlethwaite starting to come under some immense pressure here from Nick Cummings. They are line astern almost coming into the first couple of turns. Posy carrying a bit of damage, and Cummings, my goodness, he's barely keeping a handle on that rear end.
Well, he's at the moment trying to find everything he can. There's been a multi-21 switch of positions as Jordan Ross drops behind Cooper Webster, who feels that he is the quicker driver. So that one without too many worries. So also keep an eye on this, because you got Ian Ford in the yellow ERT car. He's trying to work away around the 22 of Brady Myers, who is 13 seconds off of Jared Filsell. Filsell said to me after AOSC 2 weeks ago, yeah, no, I was sandbagging in that race. I was just showing what I've got, as Coxhead now continues on his little scrap at the moment out on track in the 208. You can see the train of tricks that he's got behind him. There's enough for a whole pack of cards.
Yeah, certainly, or a hand of 3 and go fish. That was Thomas Hins behind him. Brady Myers and Ian Ford still fighting it out in the first sector of the track. You can tell Ford is really starting to put the pressure on now, and Ford is the kind of driver who will not instantly go for a hero dive up the inside. He's one of those drivers who will maintain the pressure on his rival until they crack.
Yes, and the question is, what will crack first? Brady's driving, his concentration, or his engine over previous seasons? That's what we have to ask and question at the moment, and ultimately the engine seems the last of the priorities of the track, which doesn't really use it very much. We keep an eye on Brenton Hobson just for the time being, because he is in that train and he is not having maybe the best of runs at the moment in the 88. He is though up 8 positions, so he's doing very well. But look at this, he's trying to get past Jake Burton, but so is the entirety of the middle of the pack at the moment.
And all you can do is laugh, because that many cars in a snake along that one section of track, it's only at a place like Oran Park you can see something like this. On board with Lee Ellis, and the fan club will more than likely be lighting up the YouTube chat right now.
They certainly will. It's just behind Corey Preston. Oh my goodness me, can he slow it up? Sanford gives him the room. and they hold it together. So another scary moment for Corey Preston, as now they're starting to think about getting moves, as Ian Ford now starts to get aggressive here, looking to try and pick a way around a certain Brady Myers. It seems it's a certain magical index against a certain scientific railgun, the way that these two have been battling at the moment, and at the moment nothing seems to change.
Yeah, certainly. Ian Ford just continuing to keep that pressure up, and Myers holding up very well under that pressure. Coming through this middle sector, time is starting to run out for these guys. They're becoming well aware that the race is almost 2/3 complete, and if they want to make moves, they have to start thinking about making them now.
They have to start thinking. You have to get aggressive. You have to get brave. And I think a few drivers are trying to get brave as things look. I think the world and its shoulders are very strong and heavy on Jake Burton right now in unfamiliar territory in Sydney, trying to have his own little way with the world at the moment, as just behind that, Stenberg has probably made some of the biggest gains in this field overall. Started 39th, up to 28th, and sees the top 20 in front of him with a former teammate leading the train. So there's looking to continue in terms of that battle out on track, but again, no changes at the moment. Every driver is just sitting and playing that patience game. They're waiting for lap 30 to tick on the board.
Yeah, and you know what? No one wants to be the first one to make a dive, because at that point... Oh, hang on a minute. Cummings and Postlethwaite almost side by side. Sorry to interrupt myself there, but these guys are super close now.
They are super close, as everyone now starts to see just how important this battle is starting to become. So they've got to be right on it here if they are to make this one work in their favour. Also look a little bit further back, because here's Postlethwaite under pressure. Nick Cummings was so close heading through the final corner. Gets a slide on the exit to boot as well. And at the moment, it seems that nothing is happening here to make this move happen. And Nick Cummings knows that everything is trying to go through, as Coxhead and James Scott have their own little moment, because that is Chris Coxhead making it happen at the final corner.
Yes, indeed. So he is in front now, and the battle for 17th and 18th still raging on just up ahead of them. We take a look briefly at James Scott going through turn 1 as this train continues to rail its way around the circuit. But Postlethwaite and Cummings, they are one of the closest fights on track at the moment, and they are leaving absolutely nothing on the table now.
They are leaving nothing on the table, and why wouldn't they at this situation? You've got nothing to lose. As Sanford now has himself his own little scrap. He loses out the position then to Corey Preston. Good work from Corey, who gets down the inside at 6 and picks it up on the exit to get himself through. Look behind that as well. Johnstone, Fraser, Stokes, Matt Morris, Griffin Gardner, all there in their own little battle, their own little train. They're trying to have their own race as things stands, as the big battle train seemingly is splintering at James Scott here for 20th position. We would show you what's happening at the front of the field, but at the moment it's 6 cars all in a line, and it's a very long and elongated line at the moment. Huge puff of brakes from James Scott into turn number 1, and he's got to fend off the aces in the pack just behind.
Yeah, certainly. The Trick Sim Sports people, they are running very strongly in this one, and running as a team in this case. When one of them gets by, you can be guaranteed that they'll take advantage of James Scott being thrown off his rhythm, and they'll go for it. But question is, can James Scott hold off those advances? You can see the drivers who are formerly at the front of the train starting to break away, form their own little 3-car battle. So I think the Trick guys are going to start getting a bit impatient soon.
Well, Scott Soslovsky knows how to make a clean move, and we'll see if he's able to do that with James Scott. Oh, commitment plus over the dog leg, and able to gather it back up together. How good's the exit from Soslovsky? He's got a decent, okay, maybe a little half tap on the wall as well from Scott to boot, but at the moment it's Soslovsky versus Scott, and well, it's second name versus first name, and second name's winning.
Yeah, certainly seems that way at the moment. Have a look at Soslovsky. Right up to the bumper in turn 2. You can see James Scott, he's focusing on his exits. He's getting those runs that he needs to maintain the momentum or not. Soslovsky has a really big look, almost getting into the back of James Scott, but my goodness, just managing to hold on, the both of them. But you can see Kozlowski starting to make plans for a move.
I think he certainly is. I think we've just seen Matt Morris as well hit pit road with a blown engine or something like that. He was given license to escape and get himself going. It is 8 laps to go for Jared Filsell, who has just hit the back of traffic, which is not ideal. And look at the traffic he's got. It's not your most traditional traffic. Muggleton, Cracknell and McMillan. And there's contact there as Cracknell holds it together, as does Josh Muggleton. And well, Thomas McMillan's going to say thank you. Then there's one.
Yes, indeed. That was quite the tap that was given there. And Josh Muggleton, he has had an absolutely awful race so far by his standards. A huge amount of damage on that machine. Muggo, one of the veteran drivers in the community, and he has been a punching bag in this one, but not from McMillan, I will have to say.
Oh, he's sideways in on 3 and he's pushed out wide.
Oh.
And I think we're going to see a few trick boys having their own little scrap here. They can't afford to battle like this for too long. Around the outside goes Ross Rizzo. Okay, Scott, you've had your chance. My turn to attack now, he says, as he makes his way through at turn 6 to get himself through. And that was a very nice move indeed being made. Look at this now as Thomas Hinds gets himself very, very close indeed.
Yeah, certainly. He's right in the thick of it, isn't he? And this goes back to the point I was trying to make earlier about when you're in a train like this, you don't want to be the first driver to try and make a move. Solovsky right off the track at the last corner. Is he going to try and hold off his teammate in Healy? They're going to go side by side. I don't think that's very optimal for their entry into turn 1, but Healy has got the run here. The guys in front of them absolutely streaking away here, and Hinsey right on the back of these guys. The split 1 winner could have a couple more positions up his sleeve, or could he? Have a look at James Duckworth. A little bit of contact with Hinds. Side by side on the run up to turn 3. Oran Park in a nutshell.
Oran Park in a nutshell indeed. Duckworth now has to abandon track as he pushes a little bit too wide. The wings just a little bit wide as now suddenly Stenny tries to find a way through, and he cannot find anything, the Perth boy, as he tries to really battle on, and he can't get anything for San El Nabi though. And Richard Hampstead on for the top 5 at the moment, and this is with 6 laps to go here at Oran Park, and there is not much separating them. Hampstead is playing this patience waiting game, which he's so good at, but the question becomes, can he get the move done cleanly against Forzan El Nabi? El Nabi has shown no signs of weakness over the course of this race.
No, absolutely not, and he's shown quite a bit of nerves of steel in this one. In the midst of all of the carnage that's been happening throughout the field, El Nabi has kept it clean, he's kept it consistent, and he's still managing to hold off Hampstead in spite of the latter's advances. We take another look, though, at Thomas Hinds. He's actually in front of James Duckworth here.
Look forward, because there's Nick Cummins, who's found a way through on Glenn Postlethwaite through the north section of the track. Gets it done as there was a mistake from Postlethwaite through 3. Opened the door for Nick Cummings, who will not take a second opportunity or will not take second chances in this one. Yes, we got Duckworth under pressure. Here is Kurt Stenberg trying everything to find a way through, and ultimately is finding a whole lot of no dice at this stage. Can he find anything, or will he have to let Go Lee have an attack and try and get it done that way? At the moment, well, if anyone's going to make the move, it's going to be him. Look how shallow Duckworth is heading through that section. He's got no abandon for his incident points.
No, certainly not, and he's going right for the apex at the last turn, which isn't helping him. Yes, Rizzo. Let's see what he can do here. Versus James Scott. Just staying on the curb is Scott, but that's move complete for Ross Rizzo. Scott may have had the opportunity to go for the over-under, but not that time round. So that's another position lost for James Scott, another position gained for a Trick Sim Sports driver.
Yeah, that's a very well-played overtake and done absolutely fantastically. The gap at the front of the field now extends to 5.7 seconds now for Jared Filsell. He is in complete control and wants to waltz away at the front of this field. El Nabi still goes on with Hampstead. Nothing. Ian Ford still stuck behind Brady Myers. And again, still nothing as they hit the brakes into turn 2. And still cannot find anything to make something happen. Look again down the field, because you've got Jake Burton still under that pressure. Hobbo88, Chris Coxhead there, and there has been a change in position. Coxhead now is the man on a mission as he looks to find that 19th place. Does he go late into turn one?
Whoa.
Oh, he thought about it, but he gets the slide on.
Oh, no contact or very little contact at the most. Good to see from those guys, but Jake Burton with a very beat-up car. We're not quite used to seeing his cars like that, but this fight back here for 19th, 20th, and 21st really on it at the moment, and Coxhead, I think his main worry is, will he be able to stay stable under brakes?
Well, someone who's worrying is Brady Myers, but he gets a stellar run off of the exit now as he's got himself 3 laps to hold on in race 1 of the night. And now Ian Ford starts to think, well, I've got to start making something, and can he get it done? Well, he's so late on the brakes through 2, but he just can't get that run off the exit. That TTL Ford is so much better than the Holden at getting the runs out of corners. Here's a lunge. Room has to be given here by Brady Myers, and that was a bit out of character for Ian Ford. He's starting to chance his arm as he looks again to the inside.
Yeah, this is an impatient Ian Ford that we're seeing here, and Chris Coxhead's just made the move on Jake Burton into turn 1. Little bit of contact between the two, but Coxhead is through, and it looked like a pretty clean move, if I'm honest. Let's have a look at a replay of it.
Let's get a replay very, very quickly, brought to you by Motum Simulations, and he gets it sent down the inside. Maybe a little bit of door rubbing there front to rear, but nothing harming the V8 Sleuth car or the Aussie Driver Search car as we get ourselves back looking forward to Brady Myers and also Ian Ford as they look to continue on their scrap. Nothing at the moment. 2 laps to go, and the top 5 still not secure either. There's still that same old question. Forsan versus Hampstead. Can anything change with the TTL cars or even the Evolution Racing Team ones?
Yes, indeed. That battle, the battles that TTL have been involved in. Oh my goodness, here we go, Ian Ford. Another big look at Brady Myers. So this is very obvious here what Ian Ford's doing. He knows how little time is left in the race. He's trying to psych out Brady Myers, get him to make a mistake, give him a bit of a fright.
Yes, and now you got to wonder, well, how frightening can things be at this stage? How important does moves like this have to be? At what cost do you put that price on one final position up and down this field, which has slightly splintered out over the course of this one? Great run from Ian Ford heading through the dogleg. Can he get it sorted though through the final corner? He has struggled to pick a run up off the exit, get on the power a little earlier, and that's a pretty good run from Ian Ford. Final lap comes along for Jared Filsow, who is in complete dominance mode at the moment. Hampstead cannot find anything, but he's got traffic to help him at the moment. Picks a lane. He's got a chance now if he can angle to the inside. El Nabi blocks it fantastically. Ian Ford, though, behind, gets himself up the inside. He's got the outside now for the next right-hander, and can he get it pinched down on the curb? No, he can't. Brady is fighting back with everything he's got. El Nabi holds on against Hampstead, and there's contact between Ford and Myers holds on to the number 1 of Jared Filsow, who heads through the dogleg with a corner to go. It's a quiet race by his standards because he waltzed away through the field, and Jared Filsow says, haters? What haters? I'm here to defend a championship. Filsow takes race 1.
He absolutely does. It's not over between Hampstead and El Nabi, though. El Nabi going mega defensive into the final turn. But Hampstead, he's going to get the run. Hampstead gets the run, and that's going to be 5th place for Richard Hampstead at the end. Well done. That was an awesome fight.
That was brilliantly played as Brady Myers holds off Ian Ford come the end, and the final battles start to get themselves in. You got Fraser versus Sanford. Jack Boyd now trying to have his own little go, and he's got Sean Kelly on the line with a very good move, and he's trying everything he can to make sure that he continues to get those sorts of moves pretty much done. The final battles come through, and well, my goodness me, easy does it for the number 1 as we get classified results then up on your screen, because Jared Filsow has just picked up the victory in a time of 32 minutes 51 seconds, and he's done so by a margin of 7 seconds over Ethan Grigg Galt. It's Madison Down who will take the spoils in third, with Brad Ryan a very accomplished fourth position. Richard Hampstead holds off a certain Forzan El Nabi in sixth, with Brady Myers getting seventh ahead of Ian Ford.
In ninth, Andrew Gilliam ended up finishing. It was a slide down from where he started, but still a good performance, and he had a couple of taps along the way. Ethan Warren and Brett Loxton behind him. Cooper Webster finishes where he started. Jordan Ross sliding down to 13th from 9th. Marlon McMullen in 14th, with Jack Boyd making up 9 positions to 15th. Sean Kelly rounds out the top 16.
Yeah, Sean Kelly certainly does. And then looking a little bit further down from that, Nick Cummings gets 17th ahead of Glenn Postlethwaite, who struggled in the latter stages. Chris Coxhead got past Jake Burton for 19th and 20th positions, with Hobo88 getting 21, 2 and 1 for him, with Ross Rizzo 22nd, getting ahead of James Scott, with Scott Soslovsky 24th as the aces in the pack battled.
Yes, indeed. His teammate Michael Healy in 25th, with Thomas Hins making it 26th from 33rd. Good performance for the Split 2 winner, my apologies. James Duckworth in 27th, with Lee Ellis finishing 28th position. Top 30 rounded out by David Sanford and Andrew Fraser, with Carl Stokes and Griffin Gardner 31st and 32nd.
Damian Johnstone, Kurt Stenberg and Corey Preston are the last finishers on the leading lap. Those a lap down include Brad Ratu, Tom Freer in the Hyperdrive car, Thomas McMillan for One Performance Racing, Michael Cracknell struggling for the Zuva Racing team, and Josh Muggleton for the Trans-Tasman Racing team. Matt Morris is the only other driver, though, who did not make it through to the end of this event. His day ended 9 laps short of the finish line. But we head ourselves away from this opening race. We're going to go to race number 2, where we will just take a few moments to get everything sorted out, and we will be back with more great action here from the circuit of Oran Park.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
chair of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Would it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMary at the line.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken it.
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what? This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Virtual Racing School V8 Supercars Online Premier Series, the #1 V8 Supercar League in the world of sim racing today, and a cleaner race there in race #1 that we are maybe a little bit used to seeing. We still had our fair share of incident here and there, but nowhere near to the level that we have seen in the past. It was all about controlled overtaking over the course of this one race, but we now head ourselves over towards the second race and the final race of the evening, and there's a lot of things that need to be talked about. The first and foremost is the grid, because it is a shake-up.
Yeah, it is. Ever so slightly, though. You look up at the very top of the field, it's largely the same as it was in race 1, the likes of Phil Seldown, Greg Galt, Gilliam, El Nabi, and Hampstead. But the further down you go, the more you think, oh, okay, there's going to be some real changes in this field, especially considering that there's quite a few drivers who made advances in race 1, but they're actually going to have to start further back now.
You talk about someone like Ethan Warren, I think is the biggest loser in the whole of this field. He's got to start this one 23rd, and he was pushing up towards the top 10 in that opening race. So a lot of work needs to be done up and down this field. So they will have to try and look out and understand exactly what they need to do to come out of Oran Park and head to Phillip Island with a sense of pride and a sense of accomplishment out of this event. You also have to look at what has changed in terms of racing that's going to be going on. It is a little bit different. It is 42 laps worth of racing, and more importantly, they have shrunk that fuel tank down by 40% from what it was in race #1, which guarantees that a pit stop has to be made.
Yes, indeed, and it's going to be that pit stop that makes all the difference, especially if a safety car comes out. We went safety car free in race 1. Of course, we did have a safety car period in Super Split 2. So if a safety car comes out in this race, it's going to be a big dive for the pit lane, I think.
Well, the question becomes now, how do you stop Jared Filsell? He was perfect on his launch and got himself away and pulled the gap early. I think if you're Madison Down and you're starting from second, you've got to have the mother of all starts if you're going to stop Filsell here tonight, because the only way I can see Jared Filsell not winning this event is if he's not in control of the lead. If he's controlling this event from the front as he likes to so often, we've seen so many times over the last 3 years, he just drives off into the distance and there's not much you can do to stop him. You have to play the defensive game with Jared and frustrate him, like exactly what happened when it came to Interlagos just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, indeed. We saw a Phil Cell at Interlagos that we haven't seen in quite some time, if at all. So it definitely shows how you can ruffle the three-time champion's feathers. Of course, the pit stop in this second race of the night, that's another opportunity for someone to steal the lead away from Phil Cell, or at least give him a hard time if he's out of position.
And it's about that positioning that I think drivers up and down this field know that they need to work on. Let's just talk about some drivers here who have made some good gains over the course of that second qualifying lap, because Ian Ford has moved himself up into 7th position. Josh Muggleton is now up into 9th, and he'll be very happy with that. Talk about a big loser. Brad Ryan, he was 4th in that opening race. He's starting this one now all the way down in 12th position, and that's really going to hurt.
Yeah, certainly is. He's not going to have the luxury of a clearer view into turn 1 this time around. Currently sitting in 9th in this practice session before we go racing for the final race of the night. But Brad Ryan, he's one of those guys that has been around the block more than a few times. He's been a part of TTL Esports for the longest time. He's been a part of V8 Supercar racing on iRacing for just as long. So if anyone can make moves further up into the top 10, it'll be him.
Yeah, it certainly will. And right now you have to say it's all about those moves. It's all about those shakers, and it's also all about track conditions. It's getting cooler. It's evening conditions. It's heading up towards around 25 past 6 at the moment in sim time, which means that we are going to be ending this one pretty much at sunset. And these drivers are going to have to deal with adaptable conditions. Track temp is 27 degrees, winds blustering in from the west. So that's going to give them a headwind coming across the likes of the back section of the track and a crosswind at the front. So they're really going to have to try and work out, okay, how do I attack and where is that best place to attack? Because, Reese, it has to be said, and we have to be perfectly honest about this, overtaking has proven to be difficult, and the wind is not helping this scenario.
Certainly not, and I even said it right at the start of the night. It's going to be the first and last sections of the track that are going to be the most fertile places for overtaking. The rest of the circuit is a winding, sweeping piece of road that if you run side by side through, you can do it, and it can certainly create some spectacular racing, as we've seen previously in the night, but it slows you down. That's not what you want.
No, you certainly don't want that, and we are a minute and a bit away from getting the start of this race going. But what's your final thoughts then as we head ourselves over towards some great racing action that will happen very, very soon?
My final thoughts, I'm looking forward to seeing what Jared Filsell can do into turn 1. If he can repeat what he did in race 1, then that's going to be extremely difficult to try and get one up on him later on.
Yeah, and well, that much we can definitely say. But let's get ourselves a rundown then of how this grid will stack up for the final race of the evening. It will be Jared Filsell who will have the pole position for Evolution Racing Team. Madison Down will start from second with Ethan Griggolt in third. Andrew Gilliam needs to find a recovery. He starts from fourth with Forzen El Nabi fifth and Richard Hampstead in sixth position. Ian Ford starts 7th with Cooper Webster 8th. Josh Muggleton starts 9th, and it's Marlon McMullen who rounds out 10.
As we come up to 20 seconds remaining in this session, Brady Myers is going to start from position 11. Brad Ryan and James Duckworth following him, with Loxton and Preston rounding out the top 15. Michael Healy and Jordan Ross 16th and 17th. Top 20 rounded out by Nick Cummings, Glenn Postlethwaite, and Jake Burton, who has not had the best of nights out of his comfort zone.
Scott Zaslowski is the second trick car in 21st. Griffin Gardner is 22nd. Then you got Ethan Warren and Sean Kelly. Thomas McMillan starts 25th with Chris Coxhead alongside him on row 13. Brenton Hobson and Ross Rizzo occupy row 14. Row 15 sees Go Lee Ellis, and also the man who is in that 30th position, of course, being James Scott.
Yes, indeed, and coming 31st in this session as we go through the field here, you take a look at the liveries and such that you can look out for on track at the moment. Thomas Hins in 31st, Jack Boyd behind him, Kyle Stokes in 33rd, 34th, Michael Cracknell, Sanford and Stenberg behind them. Fraser lining up in 37th. 38th is going to be Johnston. Bradley Ratu lining up in 39th. Tom Freer rounding out the top 40 on row 20. And Matthew Morris starting last once again in that Trackstar machine.
What can Jared do? Can he come out of Oran Park with back-to-back race victories? He wants some clean driving. He wants to hope that he's not going to be under pressure, but Madison Down, Ethan Griggolt and Andrew Gilliam want to keep their hopes alive. Watch out as the lights are on And the lights are out. Let's get ourselves going. Slow from Madison down. Very slow from Madison down. Slow from El Nabi as well, who he himself will get swarmed. Gilliam looks to the outside. Ford's already down the inside as they make their way into 1. It's once more Evolution Racing Team 1 and 2. Madison down almost has a massive moment as they head into that section. Contact, though, with one of the TTL cars. That will be Richard Hampstead, who gets a little bit of a check-up going as they nose arc their way into turn number 3. And aside from that one little moment, big incident in the background. That's the TTL car.
Yes, indeed. And
sorry, TTR car, sorry.
Yeah, this section of the circuit is ripe for heavy incidents, but it looks like the vast majority of the field got through. It was Sean Kelly in that TTR car who fell afoul of the lap 1 shenanigans. We take a look at Cooper Webster as he chases down Brady Myers for that final position in the top 10 as the field comes up to the end of lap 1, just about only a few corners to go. That's how short Oran Park is. It's only 2.6 Ks long, and lap time is just over a minute. It's a short blast, but good now. Wow, it's exciting. Goodness me.
Nick Cummings trying to go around the outside. That was all caused by a lot of dramas going on a little bit further in front of him. So Brad Ryan ultimately loses a position. That was the uber wide line. Still too wide is Burton and Ethan Warren as they make their way into turn number 1. Burton stuck on the outside, and there's a little bit of trouble. 1 goes off, 2 goes off. 1's McMillan, 1's Preston. Are we surprised? Well, that's up for you to decide, but at the moment, that was not what the pair of them wanted. They both had a trip to the kitty litter.
Yeah, they certainly did, and Burton with a couple of issues as well. I think there was a bit of contact there, forced wide by Ethan Warren, and he's ended up falling back a bit, has Burton. He's now right behind the TTL Esports machine of Griffin Gardner there. So Burton off on a bad foot to start off this race. Let's have a look at a replay.
Well, let's get a replay at the start and everything that has happened then in the early going. So this is Jake Burton, gets up on 2 wheels, gets a tap. There's the 2 vehicles off in the background as well, which we didn't quite catch exactly what happened to them, but on the brakes then into the next right-hander of 3, seemingly no worries at all as he looks to try and push on with him. Now, looking at the start here, it was a great start again from Phil Sell. Madison Down just gets lost in the second stage of acceleration. He was a little slow on the reaction time, maybe, and that's something that really didn't help as we just wait for that to go as we look a little bit further down in the pack as well. That's Sean Kelly in the 87 starting this, or now all the way down in the field that we're keeping an eye out on as we wait forever for this replay to get going.
Yes, indeed. Well, it was an interesting start all through the field. This is the view. The drivers, some actually starting around the final corner. That's something that you need to be careful of here at Oran Park. So Ethan Warren got a great start there, and you can see Sean Kelly, absolutely horror start there, and it just got worse for him further on as news happening from what's happening on the track right now. Corey Preston apparently running into issues. He was stuck on track, but he's managed to get himself back going again. That was another incident for him then, which is not ideal. Oh, that's what happened to Kelly.
Yeah, massive incident for him, and he hits the marshal post as well, so glad that a virtual marshal was there to assist him to get back going again. So just another look at this one. Let's actually go on board here with Sean Kelly, see exactly what he sees, and he sees a lot of vehicles left and right, and ultimately, nowhere to go. That's one of the Sinji cars in, and actually there was a trick car. I think that was Ross Rizzo getting away with it there, and very, very lucky in that scenario to keep himself on the straight and the narrow to boot as well. Your top 4 spreading out a little bit here at the front. The battle happens at Josh Muggleton. There's McMullen, Myers, Webster, Duckworth trying to stay with it at the moment. That's the big scrap that we're seeing at the moment. Nether regions of the top 10 out in this one as they're all just trying to work themselves through that final section and get themselves to run off the exit. Good run into the corner from McMullen, but once more you're seeing Cooper Webster just behind that get a good attack on Brady Myers, and Brady's bunch now has to try and work together with a little bit of cooperation that isn't really cooperation.
Yeah, have a look at how aggressive Cooper Webster was there in turn 1.
Oh,
no at all. Cooper Webster's issues just continue, and James Duckworth, an innocent victim.
Yeah, and that is Jordan Ross struggling again with turn 1. He tried to straighten it up. No dice at all, as Brett Loxton has his own little issue heading through 1. He just outbroke himself into the corner the same way that Jordan Ross did. It's such a difficult braking zone because you are turning and braking at the same time.
Exactly. Well, that's why it's one of the most important sections of the circuit. It's difficult to put a pass on through there, but it's just as difficult to go through there on your own. So James Duckworth now missing his rear boot lid and having to fight further back than he would have liked. Kurt Stenberg and Jack Boyd, his teammate with him.
Yeah, and that's a really big hurt, and he's missing that boot lid, and he will not be happy at the fact that he is missing that, and he's got to go out there and now push on a little bit harder to get anything that he wants out of it. Myers, though, starting to get aggressive here on McMullen. Can he find a way down to the inside? No, he can't. McMullen blocks the apex, and we saw in AOSC how Marlon McMullen was fantastic at blocking every little bit, which gave him the chance to go out there and really showcase what he's all about. But once more, the front of the field sees a 1 second gap for Jared Filsell, who now has the license to streak away at the front of this field. One license which nobody in this SCOPS field has wanted to see for a very long time, but they'll see it once more as the familiar story.
They certainly will. Filsell with that 1 second lead over his teammate as we take a look once again at the McMullen, Myers, and Stokes battle. Cooper Webster, my apologies. These guys are just not able to leave each other alone at the moment, and you can see the shadows growing longer. That sun very low in the sky here. It's 20 minutes to 7 in sim time, so the track will rapidly be starting to cool down, and it's going to be harder to pick your braking points as the shadows move.
You bet it is, as they now look to try and find a place to go. Little wiggle there from Cooper Webster, young Cooper Webster, who cannot find a way through. He was trying, but nothing going right there. Szydlowski runs a little bit wide as well in the background. This is allowing Jake Burton the chance to attack. Does he look to the inside? Thinks about it. That's a long thought, and ultimately nearly ended up in a daydream.
Yeah, certainly did. Burton pushing very hard there. And have a look back here. The 071 machine of David Sanford trying to fight with James Duckworth. You can see that James Duckworth actually losing 2 spots there because I can see Jack Boyd in front of him. So what on earth happened to James Duckworth? Obviously a very poor night. Oh no, actually it was Sanford that lost the positions there. Outbroke himself into turn 1.
Yes, he certainly did, as now Michael Healy looks to have his own battle with Ethan Warren. This one for 13th and 14th out on the road. Is there a good run off the exit? There is, but a little bit behind that, there is, again, Szydlowski under pressure. Burton now keeps himself on the outside and is wondering, well, how do I make this move into the next section of track? He cannot find anything for love nor money that's going to give him the chance. Battle for 4th, though, also on, because Andrew Gilliam has proven that he's got 1 lap pace and not much else at the moment. Hampstead has caught him along with Ian Ford, and Forza Arnabi desperately trying to stay with this one, but I wonder for how much longer. Hampstead has proven he has the patience of a saint, and he's got to try and work out, well, do I use it or do I allow Ian Ford to try and get aggressive on my behind?
Well, that's the thing. When you're in a position like Hampstead's and you've got someone like Ian Ford coming up behind you who can be very quick on his day, it's a tough decision to make. Hampstead going a little wide in the first half of the last turn, and Gilliam once again with the exit. I mean, Gilliam, his performances have been okay tonight, especially his performances in qualifying. But in terms of race pace, you can definitely see he's at a disadvantage compared to these guys. And you can see Richard Hampstead almost getting into the back of him there. There's a little bit more that Andrew Gilliam could be doing.
They could, and of course qualifying sets different to the race set. Big slide from Hampstead. Here comes Ian Ford now looking for the chance. He'll look down to the inside, and I wonder how hard this will be defended by Hampstead. He'll hold the outside line through 4 and 5, and can he get himself up there for 6? He's got to be brave around the outside, but I think position has to be ceded here to Ian Ford, and it will be so. From looking very aggressive and very nice, suddenly the position goes away in a second drop. So Hampstead now suddenly finding out, well, okay, that's not part of the script.
No, certainly not. Andrew Gilliam now enjoys a gap to the drivers behind him. Hampstead's not done with Ford, though. He's going to try and go back up the inside at the last turn. Will Ford be able to hold it around the outside? Yeah, he's got him.
Wow, well, Hampstead's got a battle with Ian Ford, and this has only allowed Forzan El Nabi into the scene. Here's Ian Ford thinking about, do I make the move? Oh, he almost makes a bump into turn number 1. How late on the brakes do you dare? And they both dare nicely. Slightly wider line taken, though, by Hampstead, but he's able to gather it up nicely and continue on that charge as they head themselves to turn number 3. No chances of a move just yet. So that one ending nicely at the end of it. We got Griffin Gardner under pressure. Here's Brett Loxton going down the inside, and he is able to make that one work. Is he? Yes, he is. And that was Gardner having to back off of it there for fear of running his nose into Loxton's rear end, and ultimately finds himself in a good position and able to continue at the cost of 1.
Yes, indeed. And we still continue to take a look at this battle for 5th place. Richard Hampstead has not been able to shake Ford and El Nabi. Both of these guys staying consistent behind him. Andrew Gilliam, meanwhile, he's looks like the gap's only just gotten bigger since the end of the last lap. So advantage Gilliam at the moment, but you can definitely tell Hampstead, Ford and El Nabi not too happy with where they are at the moment.
No, I don't think they are, and I think there's a lot of drivers who aren't too happy about where they are right now. You've got the likes of Thomas Hinds under pressure, and we're just seeing how close everything is starting to get as Burton got incredibly close in his own little scrap as well. Ian Ford's desperately still trying to find a way past Hampstead, and ultimately you have to look at what Hampstead is able to do. He's able to just make his Ford as wide as possible as Jordan Ross gets a drive-through penalty for what happened to him earlier on in the race. So there's no shocks, there's no surprises there, but ultimately, how wide is the widest Ford for the Ford to get by?
Exactly. Richard Hampstead, he's maintaining the momentum that he needs through the corners. He's able to stay ahead of Ford. The problem is around Oran Park, you cannot leave a gap, because if you do, then your rival is absolutely going to go for it. It's such a short track. There's so many places where you can make a mistake and give your opponent half a chance that they are going to take.
Once more, Jake Burton thinks about making a move. Once more, Jake Burton is not close enough yet, or is he? As he gets late on the brakes. Issues behind. Bye-bye, Glenn Postlethwaite, as he loses 2 positions, 3 positions, maybe a 4th as well. If Ross Rizzo can get aggressive here on the outside, he can't, so 3 only there for Postlethwaite, who now has to gather up his momentum again and get the rhythm. That is what happens at turn 1 when you make mistakes.
Absolutely, and now Postlethwaite right at the head of what is a very aggressive train, or, well, come to think of it, Ross Rizzo is behind him, so it's not an aggressive train, it's more of a consistent pressure kind of train. Thomas Hinds, Michael Cracknell and Chris Coxhead also following these guys.
It's more military line waiting for food from the pressure cooker sort of train that we are sort of starting to see at the moment. As I know some person is hungry in the chat that we have here on stream, but now this train gets a little bit longer with Chris Coxhead. There's also Stenberg and Boyd who will want to get on the back of this train and have their own battle as Postlethwaite. Yes, good decision, decides it's time to come in. Cone decides it loses its life after Chris Coxhead decides to dive down onto the lane, so no surprises there as racing continues.
Yes, indeed. So Postlethwaite and Coxhead, the first 2 drivers to pull the trigger and get into the pits as we take another look at Ian Ford. These guys have actually dropped Forzan El Nabi, have Ford and Hampstead. So lots of pace starting to come out now that they're getting back into a rhythm.
Not only that, but look at Cooper Webster too in 10th position. He's lost out to Brady Myers, and that's a big loss of position. Happened out of 2 into 3. Myers just really did not have anything to... Webster had nothing to fight back with, and he's now got to find a way back through again, which is going to be easier said than done as the early pitters come in. And look at where some of these pitters are coming out of pit exit, right with the leader. So Phil Sell now has to navigate lap traffic, and that is not part of the plan. Yes, they are a lap down, but I wouldn't say that's bad in this situation, since they've had to make their pit stop early.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's an awkward situation for all of these guys to be in. That just goes to show how much time you're losing in the pits at Oran Park at a race like this. So The question is, does Postlethwaite let Philsell through, or does he stake his claim? Yeah, he has got the tyres, but Philsell's still got the pace, as Duckworth is around.
Oh, not again, Mr. Duckworth. It seems that there is going to have to be a lot of water off of Duck's back after this race. That has to be said right now. And just getting a look at this on the Motorsport Simulations replay, little wide into one, gets himself trying to turn in. Nope, you're going to have no chance. You may have gone rogue, Motorsports, but right now your race has gone even more rogue than you potentially thought your team name was going to be in that scenario. So not much you can do here in that place, but for the time being, still drivers in the same.
Postlethwaite and Coxhead have come together. I was watching them while we were on that replay. It looks like Postlethwaite let Philsell by at the dogleg, and then Coxhead attempted to go for the move at the last turn, wasn't quite successful. This is what happened at turn 1. No big incident. He did have a look to the inside, but then Postlethwaite lost it completely on his own and spun. Coxhead didn't have anywhere to go.
It happens just like that, and an innocent bystander is created in the mix. Still got the likes of Ross Rizzo under pressure from Thomas Hinds, the Split 2 winner, who is maybe just happy to be here. He's going to hurt in his night shift job a little bit later on soon, but ultimately he'll be very, very happy about the way he's driving and how he's driving very well indeed. So through the right and through the left that he comes along of 7 and 8 and into the uphill section of 9 before the dogleg, as Madison Down decides, I've got to go for the undercut here, and I do not blame him.
Yeah, certainly. So the lap that they're on is 16, so just coming up to start lap 17. Looks to me like this is somewhere close to a third race distance. So we'll see what Madison Down can do here. There is another car in the pits. That's Brad Ryan, actually. He's retired, it seems.
Oh, yeah, and that's a confirmation of retirement just there. So he is definitely out of the event. So Madison Down makes the bold call to come down on the lane, get some fuel, and get back out and racing again. The question becomes, how much traffic will he have? Looking behind him, he's got a whole world of track there, and he's got only Andrew Fraser about 8 seconds down the road, maybe a lot less. So Madison Down has some free track to work with, but he's got to work out when does he attack, because he knows he's trying to force Philsell to pit early, or even Greg Galt to pit early to cover him off.
Yep, exactly right. So we'll wait to see how the ERT pair at the front respond to that. Greg Galt and Philsell still running in formation as Marlon McMullen comes in from 9th position. So we're seeing more people in the top 10 go for it. Question is, when will the leaders, and also these guys, the likes of Richard Hampstead and Ian Ford.
In comes Jack Boyd as well from the Gone Rogue Motorsports team. Issues on pit entry for Brad Rattu, who gets a whole amount of pit retaining wall as he gets a nice little tap on the rear. That will be a bit of a repair jobby there that he will have to try and get that sorted. But ultimately, there's still battles. Cracknell's under pressure. Here's Stenny trying to find a way through, and Hinds is just in front of this. So they're all having their own little moment here, and Stenberg, the epitome of consistency, up 15.
Yeah, certainly, and Stenny's always been good for that. It doesn't matter where he qualifies, you can bet that he'll try his best to make up positions through a race, and if he can avoid incidents, you'll see him more or less up there at the end. But this battle that he's having as Hampstead is going in. We're seeing cars following him. That's Josh Muggleton. That's Cooper Webster. More people behind him. We're seeing Altus car going in. That's Ethan Warren, I presume.
Yep. Well, he's the only Altus car in this field, as in comes Brenton Hobson and Kurt Stenberg also to come in and make those stops. Nice battle going on a little bit further down. Tom Freer, Kyle Stokes, Damien Johnstone, and the recovering Duckworth. Well, I did say John Stone, but John Stone is stone dead in the pit lane at the moment as Madison Down now will make his way past presumably everyone here who's now down on the lane. Hampstead gets himself off of his box and away again, but ultimately he's going to find himself a long way back of Madison Down, but he's not fighting as we got 2 wide off pit exit. Here's Cooper Webster and Nick Cummings have got to work it out. Cummings yields.
Yes, indeed he does. It's very awkward on pit lane exit. As I said earlier in the night, it's basically one lane on entry and exit. It's not a very wide or advanced pit lane. Did Marlon jump Muggo? We're hearing the question being asked. Yes.
He did. He certainly did.
Too.
Yeah, so Andrew Gilliam decides he's going to dive in from third position on the road, and well, who can blame him? Brady Myers decides it's time for him to go in, so it leaves the 2 ERT cars, 1 and 2 at the front, but everything else behind that is a little bit more questionable. Griffin Gardner is down in on pit road just for the time being. Loxton and Kozlowski are also incredibly close here, out on track as they make their way into turn number 3. And at the moment, Kozlowski has got to play defensive strategy here. Brett is looking to try and make a way through, and sometimes you have to feel that Loxton is trying to just lock onto his target and hope that he finds a way through.
Yeah, certainly. Well, these guys fighting incredibly hard at the moment. It's difficult when you're in a circumstance like this in the midst of all the pit stop cycles. You don't want to get too aggressive with the cars in front of you. Yes, indeed, Ethan Griggolt.
Yes, so Ethan Griggolt comes in. Ethan Warren has to come in a second time. He's speeding on pit exit. There's battling into turn 1 as Boyd yields against Glenn Postlethwaite as they scrap for position, which certainly happens. And this is the cover-off that we were expecting here. Question becomes now, can Ethan Griggolt get in and out before Madison Down? There is only one pit stop needed as Forzan Elnabi hits the lane. Ethan Warren decides he's going to get out of pit road. Madison Down now on the front stretch. This is going to be mighty tight, but Ethan Griggolt gets himself past the green commitment cone to get going. And I think he retains his position. And by how much? Enough.
Yeah, actually, more than enough. That's a really good gap that he's managed to maintain to Madison Down there. In he goes into the picture. 1 second quicker stop for Griggolt than Madison Down. I think that's par for the course when it comes to Evolution Racing Team.
They are fuel-saving dynamos, and they have proven so many times as Jared Filsell, the race leader, feels it's safe for me to come in now, and he decides to dive in. Lap 21 of 42, exactly at halfway. Kozlowski and Loxton continue to scrap in the 209. Great run off the exit from the pair of them as they make their run to turn number 1, but they both dive onto the lane. Cone goes scattering there by Kozlowski. We know he was pushing the lane limiter, and he's going to prove it.
Yeah, well, I mean, good stuff from Loxton, meanwhile, to not run into the back of him. That was really well calculated by both of those guys.
Well, if he wanted to be really cheeky, he could have pushed Kozlowski down the lane and given him a 15-second stop and hold for speeding on pit entry.
He could have, but Loxton's not that kind of guy. Oh my goodness! Wow, look at how close the ERT pair are! That was a slow stop from Jared Filsell. What went on there?
I think he's over-fueled the car. That's the only thing I can think of. He's done it in the past, and he will now drive some fantastic laps to get himself going down the inside of Tom Freer. They will go the hyperdrive car. As I've been told 3 times this evening by different people that it's his first race in V8SCOPS this evening. So thank you 3 people who have told me about Tom Freer. Yes, he is Tom Freer. Ethan Griggolt, though, still trying to push that envelope. But ultimately, the question becomes, it's got to be, Ethan Griggolt's got to save fuel at some stage. He's got to stay within a second, and Jared's got fuel to burn, which means that Ethan's effectively not got the chance to save in the draft.
And how do you save fuel at Oran Park? It's not exactly a track where you can get in the slipstream and lift and coast and stuff like that. It's very much a twisty, momentum-based circuit. The only way you'd save fuel around here is coming down the front straight and into turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, and well, into turns 1 and 2, nothing at the moment between them. That gap is only about, I'd say, half a second at the moment, and that will maybe continue to stretch out as Andrew Gilliam actually has lost out to Richard Hampstead in the pit stop window. That's very, very telling over the course of this one. Elnabi is just behind, McMullen is there, but look a little bit further down at who is trying to gain positions. You got Griffin Gardner right now, he's got Kozlowski, he's got Loxton, he's got Chris Coxhead in there as well, so that's the big loss, as well as a heap of spots get lost by someone who I can't hear.
Cooper Webster, we got a modem simulation replay here just to see what happened to him. Oh, wow, looks like some really heavy contact coming into turn 1. with Brady Myers, the instigator in that. That was very unfortunate.
Let's get a second look at it. So into turn number 1. As we look at it on the rear, that was a case of angling to the inside. Oh, that was brave from Brady. He got on 2 wheels himself. So that is maybe something the stewards might have to have a little bit of a look-see on as this racing action continues. Ian Ford and Michael Healy are the only 2 who have yet to come in. As I say that, Michael Healy's about to come out of pit road. So 1 driver remains here who has yet to come in and make that stop, and he is the number 15 machine. He is Ian Ford, and he is looking to try and go as long as he can, and he will go a little bit longer than that as he starts the 24th lap here of 42.
Yes, indeed. And Ethan apparently does not need to save fuel, according to a few sources that are in our ears. So even with that 2 second shorter stop, he's capable of bringing that thing to the end. So the conclusion then becomes Jared Filsell just overfueled it.
Well, it doesn't matter. If he's got fuel to burn, he will push faster laps. That's the way that Jared works, and that gap opened up to 0.8 of a second the last time by over the line. This time it's 9. So Greg got 104.8. That's a 104.6 from Jared Filsell. And, well, if there was any doubt who was number 1 driver coming into the start of this season, 3-time champion of V8SCOPS is saying, no, it's me. So back off, Ethan. That's the way that he's looking at. And actually look at the difference in times here, because Filsell's 104.6 is 3 seconds a lap quicker than Ian Ford's 107.8 as he had to negotiate a whole heap of traffic through the field as Loxton now tries to get himself in this battle, and in the 209, close, but no cigars.
Yeah, no cigar at all there, but Griffin Gardner and Brett Loxton, we see this at almost every round as, oh, problems for Brady Myers. What's gone on there? Very slow. Oh, he must be redressing the position to Cooper Webster. Yep, there we go. Forced redress from race control. So they've told him to do that in order to avoid a penalty.
Yep, and so the redress is complete, and he drops positions to Jake Burton and to Nick Cummings as well, as his race now becomes a case of recovery. Forza El Nabi, though, he's the next on a list trying to get himself up through the field. He's looking at maybe a top 5 out of this if he can get past Andrew Gilliam here, and the question becomes, can he? At the moment, no, is the answer through turn number 1 and 2, but ultimately, if El Nabi can just sneak away past here, Andrew Gilliam, he's definitely got the option to get past Ian Ford to boot.
I will say, Andrew Gilliam's performance in this race has been better than race 1, to be sure. He's managed to maintain that high position within the top 6. Not as much of a slide as I had expected from him. So the fact that he's been able to hold on for this long, I think says something. He's starting to really learn about what it's like to be at the top of top split.
He certainly is learning, and through turn 9 they come along. Forzan El Nabi, though, is about to turn the screw ever so slightly, ever so much on the brakes into the final corner, and now pick a run up off the exit, please, sir. Ultimately does not get there, and now you feel that for Forzan, it's another lap's worth of waiting, which he does not want to do. He does not want to find, but it's just the case that Andrew Gilliam is just that 1 step ahead at the moment into 2, no chance at 3, so again, more waiting for Forzan.
Yes, indeed. We just saw a move there on screen. James Duckworth getting past Sean Kelly. Both cars without rear wings. This further back is the battle that continues between Brett Loxton and Griffin Gardner for 17th position. Tell you what, the midfield positions have been really the ones to watch in this night of racing. The racing that we've gotten from 15th downwards to, verges of the top 30, it's been absolutely fantastic.
It's been sublime, and you cannot blame them. It has been some truly great racing as Loxton again just can't get there through 6, and now into 7 and 8, and Forzan El Nabi, hello, getting close there. Towards a certain Andrew Gilliam, but he gets all over the curb and he tries to get in on the brakes, almost out of tire on the grass, but survives to tell the tale. And can he have a look into 1? Still not quite.
Yeah, not quite. You could see he was struggling to get those front tyres in line so he could turn in. That's the challenge of turn 1 at Oran Park, especially in a V8 supercar, given the fact that you have to brake so early before you start turning in for the kink of turn 1. Yeah, you're putting all the load on those fronts, and they can very easily get overwhelmed. But this battle is just continuing to heat up as Ian Ford has stayed out, and something more has happened to TTL's Brady Myers.
Yeah, Brady, I think, has had a technical issue, and that is going to put an end to his racing. Lee Ellis is out after getting a few replacements in, so he's going to get himself back out going once more. So Griffin Gardner is going to try and go, but I have to say, Lee Ellis is 23 laps down at the moment, so he's probably looking to find 8 positions on Jordan, or 8 laps on Jordan Ross. He's got time to get there. He's got time to get past Brad Ryan as well. Well, every point counts, every little helps.
Absolutely, and of course he'll have the love of his fan club giving him the energy that he needs. Modem Simulation Replay, let's see what this is about. This is involving Glenn Postlethwaite, and I believe that's Duckworth.
It is up the hill, looking towards turn 6.
Oh,
a bit of contact there, and well saved by Bozzy, but Duckworth is through and maintains position, and now is under pressure in a Trans-Tasman sandwich. Look at Brett Loxton, though, down the inside, and that is comfortably given by Griffin Gardner, or is it with the run off of the exit? No, it's not, so Gardner has to drop behind. Good position gain by Brett Loxton. Up another one that he wants to just be happy about, be proud about the way that he's managed to pick that up. Look at that gap, though, that Phil Sellers managing to pull out. We said that he's got fuel to burn. Well, he is certainly burning through it, because he's got that gap up to 2 seconds.
Yeah, certainly, and it's worth pointing out he's consistently faster than Ian Ford by more than half a second every lap. He's been taking big chunks of time out of his teammate in the number 15. Ian Ford continued to stay out. He remains the last driver on track who has yet to pit, so we'll see if he comes in this time round. Surely he'll be starting to run on fumes in that thing pretty soon.
And the amount of time...
Oh, and as I say it, in he goes.
Out, he comes in. I wonder where he's going to fall out, because he was battling Hampstead and Gilliam earlier on, along with El Nabi. I wouldn't be surprised to see him behind McMullen, Muggleton, maybe even under pressure from Nick Cummings for a top 10 finish. That's where I see Ian Ford at the moment. As the final pit stop comes in, he'll look for his box, which will be the 7th last one on the grid stalls, as he will look to pull in on the concrete, and he is absolutely perfect in the way that he's made that stop. He'll get some tyres, he'll get some fuel, and he will look to try and push his way over to the end. Phil Sellers already by, as is Greg Galt. Madison Down has just made his way through. Hampstead straight by, Gilliam straight by. El Nabi gets himself going as well. What about McMullen? Is he going to run out of time? Answer is yes. So ultimately that strategy for Ian Ford has not paid off, but it will later on. He's got 12 laps to use fresh rubber against El Nabi and Gilliam, and also Hampstead.
Absolutely, that's the main takeaway from this. Ian Ford now has the freshest tyres in the field. He can afford to really push in terms of mechanical grip now. Very significant. As we take another look at Silovsky and Loxton here. Loxton, of course, having gotten past Griffin Gardner, and is now pressuring the Trick Sim Sports man, and Thomas Hinz right up in front of them. No, my mistake. I got my liveries confused once again. That's Brenton Hobson.
That is Hobo88, who is trying to maintain 14th position. He's up 13 so far in this race. One of the biggest movers and shakers, if not for Kurt Stenberg and Brad Ratty, who are each 16 of their own up in positions right now. So for the time being, it is Brett Loxton trying to angle for a way through on Sislowski, who he has struggled to make a pass on throughout this event, and nothing as of yet in terms of what Brett can find, and he finds maybe the best chance yet into turn number 1. He's within a car length and a half, and can he get himself down that inside? No, he cannot, but it's that second phase of braking you need to be good at, and again, nothing.
Yeah, certainly. And just a quick comment about Burton as we take a look once again on board Brett Loxton and Scott Sislowski. Loxton trying for the outside. Sislowski well aware that the Zuva driver behind him is now on a charge up towards the end of this race. It's getting heated there. Meanwhile, Ian Ford has already gained 1.5 seconds on Forza Elnabi ahead of him. That's the difference that fresh tyres make. Look at how close he is now.
Well, he did a 140.6 for an out lap. Let's see what his first flying lap is able to give him. Answer, 1:04.6. That is a 1:05.4 for Forzan Elnabi, so that's 0.8 of a second, and he's faster than the leaders as well by 0.4 of a second a lap. So staying out longer has proved beneficial in the long run. Question becomes, if he is closing at that sort of speed, he's got to get past Elnabi, and then Gilliam. I reckon he could even fight for a podium here if something's happened.
Yeah, Cooper Webster. Unfortunate. He went for a move on Jake Burton, but didn't quite get it done. That looked pretty hairy. And I will say, Burton's performance in this race has been leaps and bounds better than his performance in qualifying and in the first race. He's managed to find himself up in 11th place. So it's taken him a bit of the night, but he's managed to get used to his out of comfort zone setup as we take a look at the 81 of Muggleton briefly. Oh, here we go. Ian Ford with a bit of traffic in the form of Ethan Warren in his pursuit of Elnabi. Warren staying wide. Good stuff.
Good stuff indeed. So now Ian Ford has got to wonder in this scenario, what is next for me? Where do I now make this next move? And he is probably lining up Forzan Elnabi as quickly as he possibly can. I reckon he could get a podium if he's really aggressive and quick with the way that he makes these moves. He's got to be assassin-like in the way that he finds a way through. But again, Cooper Webster behind, unable to find moves. And this is what drivers are worrying about. Can we make moves? No, we can't. Into 1 and 2s, I'd keep an eye out on Thomas Hinds. He's got Stenberg, Rizzo and Cracknell all trying to find a way by.
Yeah, certainly. We got around about 25% race distance left, and the time is now for drivers to start turning up those aggression meters. So Ian Ford is, in particular, the guy who will take the most advantage of that. Hinsey, on the other hand, up in the top 20, and have a look at the gap now between Ian Ford and Forzan Elnabi. Barely anything as they come onto the front stretch again.
Yes, they certainly do. I just had a look at this because Ian Ford is down the inside and Forzan's going to give it up because he knows that I've not got the tyres to fight you, Ian. You can go on and have your push because I'll just happily take whatever I can get on my plate. As Josh Muggleton as well is getting on the aggressive factor. He's looking at Marlon McMullen thinking, well, here's a chance that I'm looking for. 9th position, 8th position would be fantastic if I can make a gain up through this field, and nothing yet as he heads through 4, and now the kink of 5 up the hill. 6 is the right-hander at 3rd gear, and ultimately, I think for Josh Muggleton, another lap he says that he needs to wait for. Another lap that I've got to just play my cards right, and I've not got many laps to go, he'll be thinking, because he knows when he crosses the line, he's down to just 8.
Yes, indeed. There they are. And wow, what a line by Marlon McMullen over the top of the hill. I love the lines that they take through the dogleg, using all the curb and sliding their way through. Muggleton didn't have quite as good of an exit that time around, so he's going to have to stay in the slipstream again. But I'll tell you what, even at this point, his performance is, once again, leaps and bounds over race 1. He got very unlucky in race 1, but here he is fighting for a top 8 position.
He is fighting for that top 8 as I've just seen Lee Ellis just have a big wide moment through the dogleg. He got curb and could not do much as we do see more positions being changed up and down this field as this one does continue to go on. Look at Ian Ford. He's now all over Andrew Gilliam, and I'm not sure Gilliam's got anything right now, and for the time being at least, it seems that this is only going to be a matter of when and not an if. Massive wiggle over the dogleg. My word, Gilliam, boy!
That's the only word you can say, eh? But the Pursuit Sim Racing driver absolutely hanging it out here at Oran Park. Very entertaining stuff. Ian Ford moves out briefly just to psych him out in the mirrors. Let's see what he's like into turn 1. Is he going to go for the move? Yes, he is. Gilliam sees him coming and lets him go.
Yes, and well, no point fighting that for Andrew Gilliam. I'm stymied in terms of my strategy compared to his. So next up will be Richard Hampstead, and questions now will start to be asked about how you start making moves and when and why and all the other questions that come along. Keep an eye out on Nick Cummings as well, because he's falling into the clutches here of Jake Burton and Cooper Webster and Michael Healy, who are all looking at this going, top 10, brilliant.
Yeah, of course. But on screen at the moment, we have that battle still ongoing between Marlon McMullen and Josh Muggleton. Two drivers that have been around the block a few times in iRacing V8 supercars. And around this section of the circuit, this is where Muggleton really needs to start turning it up, that hairpin to end the lap. If McMullen messes up the exit, then Muggleton will be right on him for turn 1. He's actually a bit closer than he was this time last lap.
He is, and well, can he just unlock that move? He goes for the shallow line through 1 and into 2. Can he pick a pocket? No, he cannot. So he's now got to wait for 3. He doesn't get the run off the exit. McMullen again, beautiful in the way that he applies that power, and there's nothing that that Josh Muggleton is able to do. Marlon McMullen is just a bit or a shade better at this stage, as just behind that Nick Cummings holds that gap just by 0.3 slower that last time by. That gap's down to 0.7 of a second, and I think he is struggling here, and the train is approaching.
Certainly is. That train takes the form of Jake Burton, Cooper Webster, and Michael Healy. Those last few positions outside the top 10. Just comparing lap times, Nick Cummings last time by 106.1. It was a 105.8 for Jake Burton. So the time is being slowly but surely chipped away. They're only going to have 5 laps to go when they cross the line next time by. So Cummings, he's going to have to start looking at defensive soon.
He is going to start looking at defensive. Someone who's not is Glenn Postlethwaite, who's fighting with the AOSC Championship leader Kyle Stokes, and is ultimately not going to get anything from it. And now Ethan Grigalt says, choo-choo, I need to get by, and should do very, very soon in the next couple of laps or so, or in this next lap or so. Still got that battle, Muggleton McMullen. No changes at the moment with 5 laps to go. Nick Cummings, though, has been caught, and Jake Burton's now got to start thinking about, when do I make that magical pass? And it's about chess at this stage. You're playing tactical chess. You're trying to maneuver your opponent into a different position here, Reese, and it's that sort of mindset you need to think, maybe even a lap ahead around this sort of track, to go, well, this is how I'm going to make the move happen.
Well, that's exactly right. It all plays into, once again, how Oran Park is as a track. You are constantly turning the wheel. You are constantly modulating the brakes and throttle around this place. If you can get your rival to make one mistake, that's going to throw off the entire rhythm for the next whole lap. So if you can try and just put that pressure on a bit early, it'll work out for you further on down the line.
And well, he'll look to make it happen at 1 and 2. He's late on the brakes, but he'll now try and attack for 3. But again, can't get the power down early enough. And all of a sudden, Cooper Webster start thinking, well, here I have a half chance, but it's not going to take it. Slightly wide there from Nick Cummings, locking up that left. And he's got to be careful about locking that up. This track's cooling, and it's more easier to get some oversteer in these final stages. Big wide line from Jake Burton. He's got 3 laps when they cross the line to make the move.
Yeah, certainly. And meanwhile, the battle for 4th place is continuing to go on between Richard Hampstead and Ian Ford. Ford is catching Hampstead at a rate of knots, took 0.6 out of him on the last lap. What about this one? It's another 0.6.
Well, now it's about Hampstead holding on to position. He knows there's no point letting him go. He's not going to chase down Madison Down, who's 4 seconds in the future, but still, Ian Ford will want one more, and he's going to go for the massive launch down the inside. No, sir! You will not take that position just yet. Hampstead has got to be aware of that. That came along like a missile.
It's another freak-out move. That's what Ian Ford's doing here. He's going for that move knowing that it's not going to happen, but he pulls it up anyway, just short, and tries to throw the rival off. That's something that we've seen from him all through this race.
Well, you got to do it one way as this one battles as Marlon McMullen is closest in this battle. Josh Muggleton's desperately trying to find a way through. Also got El Narby on the back of Andrew Gilliam. This is another little scrap as we will have 2 laps to go at the line. How's the run for Ian Ford? It's okay. It's pretty decent, and with superior traction, he should be good. Gap at the front is down to 1.8 seconds for Jared Filstow, who's maybe just turning down the dial a little bit in the final stages, but looking to one here with Ian Ford trying to make that move. Still nothing as he now looks for 3, as Muggleton now loses a spot then, gains a spot to McMullen. Here comes Ian Ford down the inside, and he's going to open up the door, and now there's traffic on the exit, and he has to yield. Does he? Looks back for the inside, room given by Hampstead. Very nice, he runs wide, 3 position. Thank you, says Ian Ford.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what he wanted, and in the process of that, we had Nick Cummings in trouble. Jake Burton and now Cooper Webster have gotten by him. Can Cummings hold on around the outside? Oh, a little bit of contact between. They bang wheels, Webster and Cummings. And now, look at Michael Healy on the back of this. He sees, oh, Nick Cummings is injured. I'm going to try and grab myself a slice of this pie.
1 lap remains, though, here at Oran Park. Gap at the front, down to a second. Now, question becomes form finish. We maybe think we've seen this all too often before this season with Evolution Racing Team. Phil so happy to slow down and get the cameras out to finish this one and make it seem a lot closer. And Healy goes for the big one, and ultimately he gets it sorted. My goodness me, Michael Healy with a worldie of a move there at the final corner. That's what racing like this is all about. Can McMullen hold off Muggleton? Yes, he can into turn number 3. Gilliam has held off Forzan El Narby. Ford is away from Hampstead, but look forward at Greg Galt and Phil Sell. Phil Sell saved a lot of fuel in the stop. He had a lot to burn as he looked to attack. Let's form finish this one up. Final corner approaches. Jared Filsell is going to take the pair as he gets it ahead of Ethan Griggold. That is perfection from Jared as he shows everybody once more what he is made of. Madison Down will come home and take 3rd. Ian Ford on the alternative in 4th with Hampstead in 5th. Gilliam shall hold off 6th. McMullen will hold off a certain Josh Muggleton over to the line. Burton is not safe though. That's a lunge at the final corner. And can he just pick it up on the exit? He tries, but he's going to run out of road.
Yeah, well, that's going to settle it. Cooper Webster, oh, so close. Banging bumpers there, but Jake Burton, yeah. Whoa,
Loxton, he's trying to take Hobson as he got it on the line. It's mighty tight, and it is 3,000th Brett Loxton.
Oh, my goodness. I love this series. Was that not already obvious? I love this series.
Well, let's get a replay then of exactly what's happened on the Motum simulation. Look at the run through the final corner here. Takes the wide line, opening it up. Mistake from Hobson there at the end, and then it's a drag race over to the line. You can't get much closer than this. 1, 2, it's just Brett Loxton who just gets the superior power off the exit to steal that position away. But with everyone across the line, this is how racing has finished here at Oran Park. Jared Filsell is perfection once more here. He takes 2 more race victories, which makes him unbeaten in 4 here at Oran Park. Ethan Griggold gets 2nd position ahead of Madison Down, who will take another 3rd. The top 3 have remained unchanged over racing procedures tonight. Ian Ford gets 4th position with a good strategy call, going long on his opening stint, with Richard Hampstead getting 5th. And Andrew Gilliam a strong drive to 6th position. Forzan El Narby will get 7th with Marlon McMullen a good up 2 in 8th.
Josh Muggleton ends his night well with a 9th place. Jake Burton as well, making it 10th from 20th. Good performance. Cooper Webster coming home in 11th with Michael Healy in 12th. Nick Cummings, unfortunately, lost a couple of positions in the dying stages. Lucky 13 for him. Scott Sadlowski in 14th, with Brett Loxton beating out Brenton Hobson for 15th place.
Griffin Gardner could only watch on in 17th, with Chris Coxhead following in suit behind. Thomas Hins, the split 2 winner, gets 19th in the end. Great result for him, with Michael Cracknell getting a top 20 finish then, with Kurt Stenberg 21st. Ross Rizzo gets 22nd for the Trick Sim Sports team, with Jack G. Boyd for Gone Rogue 23rd, and James Duckworth, his teammate, just behind.
James Scott is 25th, with David Sanford coming home in 26th. Brad Ratu comes home in 27th. Damian Johnston behind him. Tom Freer, the first car, a lap down. His SCOPS debut, it was a tough one, but he managed to make it a top 30 in the end. Sean Kelly rounding out the top 30, with Carl Stokes and Glenn Postlethwaite behind.
Yes, and now you start to hit those vehicles a lap down or didn't finish. You got likes of Matt Morris, of course, Andrew Fraser, Ethan Warren there, Brady Myers 6 laps down, struggling with technical issues. Lee Ellis, go Lee, he went and finished 22 laps down and got himself a couple of positions on Brad Ryan and Jordan Ross. Corey Preston and Thomas McMillan, though, they had issues very early on, and their races ended pretty early, 3 and 4 laps respectively, over the course of racing action. But we're going to step aside here, though, on the iRacing Esports Network, because the post-race show is coming to you after this.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to him.
Oh my God!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Virtual Racing School V8 Supercars Online Premier Series, the #1 place for V8 Supercar racing in the world, because these guys are doing it better than anybody else at the moment, and they are showing everyone what great racing is all about. And, well, we do have one fantastic little stat coming in for a race victor who's picked up 2 here, 2 a year ago and 1 the year before that. Jared, it's 5 in a row here at Oran Park. How do you do it?
I have no idea. I didn't even know it was 5 in a row. That's a pretty impressive stat, to be honest. I don't know, I think it just clicks around here, this track and my style. I quite like it. Very, very rewarding track. Get everything right.
And let's talk about how you managed to mastermind that position at the front of your races, because ultimately it came down to some really eclectic starts which got you pushing up further forward than anybody else, I think, and probably the best starts of the entirety of the field. How did you manage to lock that out? Was it just the case of practicing in a qualification session?
Yeah, I think the whole field usually, or most people, would do a practice start before the race. And my starts were quite bad, so yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I didn't really analyze, check where I went wrong or not, but just mega clutch slip. I'm not sure if there was any smoke coming off the car, because if it was, it would have been from the clutch, not the tyres.
And, well, you find yourself now in a really strong position. You've got your season back on track after a very shaky Interlagos. You've got Phillip Island coming up, which arguably has to be said, is a track which really does benefit on that speed, and another track which you do fairly well at high speed, sort of drone sort of tracks. Make sure there's an M in there. But how are you feeling heading in towards Phillip Island?
Yeah, I quite like Phillip Island. One year I seem really hot, some years I seem really cold, so I think I've had rounds there where I've completely dominated, and then other rounds where I've been absolutely dominated. So yeah, I think you really have to hit the nail on the head with the setup of that track. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure whether that's the round that clashes with Porsche World Championship or not, but yeah, I haven't looked that far ahead yet.
Well, hopefully we'll see you in as many races as possible here on the iRacing Esports Network. Before we let you go, shout-outs or sponsors.
Yep, quick shout-out to Logitech G, Speed Cafe, sorry, I've completely forgotten. Western Mazda as well. Couldn't do it without those guys, and as well as Dean Thrower engineering the car, all the cars basically in the team. He's done a bloody bang-up job. This round the car was on point. It's definitely the best car I've ever had around this racetrack, that's for sure, so couldn't do it without those guys.
Well, no worries at all. Jared Filsell just a little bit excited there after picking up 2 more race victories. The man who came second, though, seemingly cannot find himself an equal to his new teammate here. Reece Gardner stood by with Ethan Griggold.
Yes, indeed, Ethan. It's second place in both races. A really good result for you. How were things from your perspective in race 1? Certainly quite a bit of biff and barge.
Yeah, look, in race 1, the car felt really good, and to be honest, I thought the track was going to be a fair bit hotter than it was, so I probably went the wrong way on the setup changes, and we just lost out a little bit too much to Jared in the end there. He was just lightning fast, but managed to keep the gap in front of Madison and just drove to the end, really.
And it was more of the same in race 2, I suppose. You started, obviously, in third, but ended up nabbing second from the TTR driver again.
Yeah, I got a terrible start in the first race and lit the rears up and made a smoke show, so I fixed that up for the second race and got in front of Madison. We made a setup change for the second race, being a bit colder, and the thing was just lit. It was on fire, and we pushed Jared all the way to the end there. Jared just had a little bit more than us, and looks like we just come out with another one too, which is pretty awesome for the team.
We had a bit of a scare when we found out that your pit stop was 2 seconds slower than Jared's. We thought you might have underfueled it, but evidently that wasn't the case.
No, I think Jared just put way too much fuel in it, and to be honest, he was pretty lucky that he managed to come out in front of me, because on my outlap I got a bit of traffic and lost about a second and a half, and right when he came out of the pits I was on his tail, so he's a bit lucky there. He got off the hook.
But you're not going to let him off the hook too easy in future rounds, I suppose.
Nah, definitely not. Look, there's still a little bit of a pace gap to go. He's still a bit quick. It seems like we've lost about a tenth and a half in both quali and the race, but
Well, coming into Phillip Island, Ethan, certainly things are going to keep on the up and up for Evolution Racing Team, but of course there's the ever-present threat of the likes of Trans-Tasman Racing, TTL Esports, and Synergy Sim Racing. They've traditionally been pretty good at Phillip Island as well, so what are your thoughts going through to that round?
Yeah, look, our round at Phillip Island last year was not flash hot at all. Could barely even stay in the top 10, and the setup was a bit shit, but sorry for that, but I've no doubt that with the help of ART and Apex, we'll turn that around completely, and we'll have another good weekend there.
Well, that's Ethan Griggolt there from Evolution Racing Team. Mr. Sperry, you have the man who finished in third in both races, the number 77.
I do. Madison Down joining me. Madison, you have to say, you'd take a podium any day of the week, but losing ground to two of the quickest drivers of last season and now this season as well, surely there has to be something at TTR that you are trying to find and you're trying to work into, but where is it not quite coming all together?
Yeah, not too sure. If I knew, I think we'd be a lot closer, but yeah, frustrating night. I think we maximised what we could with what we had, basically. So third in quali and third in both the races was basically losing time to ERT, Jared and Ethan, and was kind of maintaining the gap to the guys behind with no difficulty. So it was quite a boring night for me, just watching cars drive away from both sides. So yeah, we had a big test the other day, ran through a big program. We are trying to make inroads. It's pretty clear that we don't have race pace, so we need to try and find that. Otherwise, we're just going to keep being driven away from. So, but big well done to ERT, dominant 1-2 tonight at Oran Park.
Not only once, but twice as well. And you're looking at maybe what could have been a big game changer. Just what happened on your start in race number 2? Because it seemed that you were maybe a little slow in the reaction and the vehicle bogged down on you.
Yeah, I've previously been using a button clutch. My clutch pedal's pretty inconsistent, so I switched back to the clutch pedal tonight. It basically operates the same as a button. I've got pretty much no control over it between 0 and 100%. So if I'm somewhere in the middle, it pretty much doesn't really hold a constant rate. So when I dropped the clutch at the start of the race, it actually clutch slipped in race 2, and I basically went nowhere at the initial hit, which hurt me pretty badly. In race 1, it was all good. I just dropped the clutch and controlled the wheel spin and got a decent start. But in race 2, it was a shocker. The clutch just slipped. It was probably only a tenth or two, but that made the difference, and I just got rounded up everywhere. So yeah, and I did that to make sure I didn't stall in the pit stop. So it was tricky. It's tricky to use a button clutch and remember to do that properly. It feels very unnatural when you do that when you do a pit stop. So I switched it for that reason. But yeah, it hurt me on the start.
Phillip Island coming up, a track which Trans-Tasman has had a lot of success at in the past. It has been a little bit hit and miss though. So in terms of looking for that race pace, looking for that magical setup, are you maybe having a little bit of confidence knowing the fact that ERT have a lot of work to do compared to last year in their setup game?
Yeah, I mean, also remembering that Jared, of course, was with us last year, so he knows exactly what we were doing there. The other big thing is we were pretty fast there because we kind of maximised what we could do with the old shock deflection or negative shock deflection setups in the back, which is now been eliminated. So It's not going to be as simple as just dropping last year's setup into the car for us. So we've got a lot of work to do there. The good thing is that we tend to be, as a team, we tend to be quite good at setting up for the high speed, fast falling tracks like that. We seem to have that a fair bit more sorted than the tracks that require a lot of traction zones like tonight. So we'll see what happens. Certainly be a lot of work going in. We were just testing. I was even testing some things in that race tonight. So we're constantly trying new things at the moment. So hopefully we can get it in the ballpark and take the challenge to these guys.
Well, certainly we can see that. Madison Down, before we let you go, shout out sponsors, who gets it done?
Yeah, big one for Virtual Racing School. The setup tonight actually for me wasn't overly different to the data pack setup that you can download from Virtual Racing School. So although we didn't get the win with it, you can pretty much download that setup that was good enough for third in V8SCOPS. So setups are certainly competitive, and try out Virtual Racing School if you haven't already.
Well, there's Madison Down joining us, third position overall. The man who came fourth had to do so in that second race on a very big strategy call. Reese Gardner standing by with Ian Ford.
Yes, I am. Hello, Ian. It was a successful night for you, all things considered. You started where you were, and you just kept going up and up and up from qualifying session to race session to race session.
That's it. It's like qualifying didn't go exactly to plan. Just didn't nail a lap when the track was fluctuating up and down temperature-wise there. And then obviously, race one, just kept myself clean, car had a bit of understeer, and just basically kept it on the track and made sure we got points. And, hopefully I put on a good show at the end of that race because, it's like that strategy call. I basically thought, okay, everyone's going to try and pit early. Track should cool off. I'll just stick to the plan and just run these tyres out. And pitted with about 2 laps of fuel to go, and then just absolutely went into quali mode and hunted everyone down. If I didn't go off track about 2 or 3 laps before I pitted and lose about 2 seconds, it's like I'm pretty sure Madison would have been on his toes then.
Yeah, that certainly seems to be the way of it. You were incredibly fast at the end of race 2. So was that always your intention to go with that late pitting strategy?
I was driving early on, basically trying to be aggressive, move up the field as quickly as I could that way. And as soon as, everything started to settle down, I just basically went, okay, everyone's going to start following all these early pitters in and basically run their tyres out. And from a few races in the past where I've pitted early and basically run around on dead tyres for the last 20 odd laps, I decided just to go the completely different way and just punch out as quick lap times as I could. And, the proof's in the pudding there. It's like I only lost about 3 seconds overall and then just managed to drive them down because even though the track was cool and it's late afternoon, sun setting, it was pretty slippery out there when you're not absolutely hitting your marks perfectly. It was fairly slippery. The rear was sliding around a fair bit. So, extra mechanical grip just gave me everything I needed there.
It was another successful weekend for Evolution Racing Team in this round, but next round, of course, we go to Phillip Island. Your performances at Phillip Island last year versus this year, your thoughts?
My performances, or as a team, it's like, as a team, we should do well. We've got the car sorted out extremely well for the faster sort of corners. My performances, I'm just going to do what I do every week and rock up and hopefully get the best out of the car. The boys are working wonders with setup, so it's easy enough to drive. I'm just hoping for a top 10, really. Phillip Island's been one of those tracks that I've always burnt out fronts at. So I think it's a 250k race, so that's going to be a bit of a struggle in the long run. I'm just going to try and play it out like an enduro and just hopefully be there right at the end.
Oh, playing stuff out like an enduro is something that we've grown to know from you, Ian. Thank you very much for joining us. 4th place finisher Ian Ford there. Sperry, that brings to an end our proceedings for tonight. My goodness, that was a good event.
It certainly was. And a race, or a couple of races, which maybe on the surface were a little bit clear and a little bit clean and a little bit easy for some, but for others, maybe a little bit lower down the packs, they had a lot more work that they had available to them. A massive thank you, though, to all that gets it done for us here at SimSpeed TV. The likes, of course, of West End Mazda, Of course, the Oceanic Sim Racing team for putting on this league together. You have to also get an eye on Motion Simulations. Great work from them sponsoring the replays here tonight. And of course, to Virtual Racing School as well as the primary sponsor of this series. This has been V8SCOPS. This has been Jared Filsell back to the top once again. Arguably where some say he belongs more than any other driver. But Phillip Island approaches and a whole new set of challenges come at the fastest track in Australian motorsports.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?